Story 1.
I let my best friend move into my guest house deployed overseas to serve my country, and came home to find out he'd been serving himself to my wife the entire time I was gone. Let me walk you through how the man I literally saved from sleeping in his car repaid me by sleeping in my bed, and how my 6-year-old son with muscular dystrophy was the one who finally blew the whole thing wide open with one innocent sentence that leveled everything I thought I knew. I'm a 35-year-old soldier. My wife is Grace, 34 mother of our boy, and apparently a world-class actress. My best friend, well, former best friend, is Bucky, a guy I treated like blood. And then there's Jamie, my 6-year-old son, the only honest person left in my life. Bucky and I go back 11 years. We met during basic training, 2 idiots who couldn't do a proper low crawl without eating dirt. He was the guy who carried my pack when my knee blew out on a 12-mile ruck march, and I was the guy who talked him off a metaphorical ledge when his mother died during our second deployment. That kind of bond doesn't come with fine print. Or at least I thought it didn't. When his marriage fell apart last spring, Bucky showed up at my door looking like a man who'd been hollowed out from the inside. His wife had taken the house, the accounts, everything. He was sleeping in his truck, eating gas station sandwiches, and too proud to ask for help until I physically saw him parked outside a Walmart at 11 at night. I didn't hesitate. Not for a second. We had a guest house behind the main property, small 1-bedroom, its own bathroom. Grace and I had talked about renting it out, but it was sitting empty. I told Bucky it was his for as long as he needed. No rent. No timeline. Just get back on your feet, brother. Grace wasn't thrilled. She didn't say it outright, but I caught the micro expressions, the tightened jaw, the half-second pause before she said, of course. I asked her directly if she had a problem with it. No, she said. I just don't want it to become permanent. It won't, I told her. He's family. That word. Asterisk. Family. Asterisk. I used it like a skeleton key, unlocking her objections one by one. I wish I could go back and swallow it. 3 weeks after Bucky moved in, I got my deployment orders. 8 months in, a place I still can't name in a story like this. The timing was brutal. Jamie had just started a new round of physical therapy. And his muscular dystrophy meant every week brought a new challenge Grace would have to handle alone. The guilt I carried about leaving was a physical weight, something I could feel pressing on my sternum every time I looked at my son struggling to climb the porch steps. But here's the thing about guilt, it makes you stupid. It made me grateful that Bucky was there. Someone to help with groceries. Someone to fix the leaking faucet I wouldn't be around to fix. Someone to be a male presence for Jamie when his father was 10,000 miles away dodging things that explode. I deployed. And for the first month, everything felt normal. Grace sent long messages, paragraphs about Jamie's therapy sessions, photos of him finger painting voice notes where she'd hold the phone up so I could hear him laughing. Those messages were oxygen. I'd replay them in my bunk until the battery died. Then, the paragraphs became sentences. The sentences became words. The voice notes stopped. By month 3, I was getting replies that looked like they'd been typed while walking away from the phone. Fine. Good. Okay. I told myself she was exhausted. I told myself Jamie's care was draining her. I told myself every lie a man tells himself when the truth is too expensive to afford. Month 4, Jamie had a flare-up. His doctor called me directly because Grace wasn't answering her phone. I tried her 17 times. 17! Each unanswered ring was a nail, and something I didn't yet know was a coffin. I finally reached the house phone and Bucky picked up. He said Grace was in the shower and he'd pass along the message. She called back 40 minutes later. Casual, unbothered. Sorry, my phone was on silent. I let it go. Soldiers are trained to prioritize. The priority was Jamie. Month 6. I got emergency leave 48 hours because Jamie was hospitalized for respiratory complications. I flew home without telling anyone. I wanted to surprise them. I wanted to walk through that door and hold my son and feel like a father again. I pulled into the driveway at 9 in the evening. The guest house was dark. The main house was lit up music, playing the warm glow of the kitchen light spilling through the curtains. I angrily walked towards the house and heard them laughing and talking. I opened the door and angrily asked Grace where her phone was and how she could be so irresponsible. They both checked their phones and said sorry, it was on silent mode. I asked Grace where she got the audacity to party and enjoy while our son was going through something. She snapped back at me and told me that this was the first time I was doing something for Jamie, so I shouldn't act all responsible as she had been taking care of him for years. I told her not to play the blame game as it was both our responsibility. I went in, got the prescription, and headed outside. Grace kept asking me about what happened and if she could come with me, but I told her to enjoy herself and left for the hospital. After an hour or so, she showed up at the hospital, eyes red, playing the concerned mother. But something had registered that I couldn't unregister. When I'd walked in, Grace was wearing her silk nightgown, the short one, the one she used to wear for me times, sitting across from Bucky at our kitchen table with a bottle of wine between them. Bucky's face when he saw me wasn't relief. It wasn't joy. It was the face of a man caught mid-sentence in a conversation he shouldn't have been having. And under the bathroom basin where I'd grabbed Jamie's prescription bag, I saw something that stopped my heart for exactly 2 beats. A used condom wrapper. I picked it up, stared at it, put it back down. My hands were shaking not from fear I'd been shot at, and my hands stayed steady. This was something else. Something worse. I flew back to base 2 days later, carrying that image like shrapnel lodged behind my ribs. I didn't confront anyone. I watched. I waited. I started paying attention the way I'd been trained to pay attention, to patterns, to inconsistencies, to the gap between what people say and what they do. And then 3 weeks after I returned from deployment for good, Jamie sat on my lap, pointed at our wedding photo on the mantle, and said something that detonated every remaining wall I'd built around the truth. "Daddy, you kiss Mommy like Uncle Bucky does." 7 words. A 6-year-old boy tracing his finger across the glass of our wedding photo, smiling completely unaware that he just pulled a pin. I didn't move. Didn't blink. My arm stayed around Jamie's waist, holding him on my lap, and every muscle in my body locked into the kind of stillness I only ever found behind a scope. The living room shrank to the size of that sentence. "What do you mean, buddy?" "On the mouth." He pressed his finger to the photo right where Grace's lips met mine. "Uncle Bucky kisses Mommy on the mouth too, like that." My throat closed. Not slowly. All at once, like a fist had wrapped around my windpipe from the inside. Jamie kept talking something about a cartoon, something about wanting juice, but I couldn't hear him anymore. I was doing math. The kind of math that doesn't involve numbers. The condom wrapper. The silk nightgown. The phone's on silent. The 40-minute gap. The paragraphs that became one-word replies. The dark guest house and the lit-up kitchen. Bucky's face when I walked through that door, not the face of a friend welcoming his brother home, but the face of a man measuring the distance to the nearest exit. I kissed Jamie's forehead. Set him down. Told him to go play in his room. Then I sat on that couch for 20 minutes staring at my wedding photo, feeling something shift behind my sternum like a bone resetting without anesthesia. I called Bucky the next morning. Kept my voice level. Told him I wanted to grab coffee, just us like old times. He hesitated for half a beat too long before saying, "Sure." We met at a cafe off Route 9. Neutral ground. He was already seated when I arrived, bouncing his knee under the table, coffee untouched. I sat down across from him and didn't order anything. "Jamie told me," I said. 3 words. I watched them land. Bucky's face went through 4 stages in under 2 seconds. Confusion, recognition, terror, and then something that looked almost like relief. The relief of a man who's been holding a grenade with the pin out and finally gets to let go. He told you what his voice cracked on the last word. Everything. I held his gaze. didn't elaborate, didn't need to. In interrogation, silence is the most effective tool you have. People will fill it with whatever they're most afraid of. Bucky filled it with the truth. His eyes went glassy. His jaw worked sideways like he was chewing on something that wouldn't go down. Then his head dropped into his hands and a sound came out of him, not crying exactly, but something more animal than that. Something guttural and wet. "I'm sorry," he said into his palms. "God, I'm so sorry. It started. It wasn't supposed to. She was lonely, and I was broken, and it just..." "How long?" 4 months. Maybe 5. I don't. In my house, he looked up. His face was ruined. Yes. In my bed, a pause that told me everything his mouth couldn't. I stood up. The chair scraped against the floor with a sound like a round being chambered. Bucky flinched. I leaned across the table close enough to smell the coffee on his breath and said the last words I'd ever speak to him. "I carried your pack. I buried your mother's memory with you. I gave you my home when you had nothing. And you repaid me by crawling into my wife." I left him sitting there. Didn't look back. Grace was folding Jamie's laundry when I walked through the front door. She looked up, saw my face, and the shirt in her hands went still. Bucky told me everything. The color left her skin in real time. Like watching a tide pull out. "Baby, wait, whatever he said, let me explain." "Explain what? The condom wrapper under the sink, the nightgown, the phone's on silent, the 5 months you spent sleeping with my best friend while I was overseas protecting..." "It wasn't 5 months, he's exaggerating, it was." She stopped. Caught herself. Realized that correcting the timeline was its own confession. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I've ever heard. Then the performance started. The tears. The hands reaching for me. That I was so lonely and you were never here and Jamie needed a father and you chose the military. She weaponized every guilt I'd ever carried, pulled them off the shelf like ammunition, fired them back at me one by one. But here's what she didn't understand. I'd already grieved this marriage. Somewhere between month 3 of cold texts and that condom wrapper under the basin, the man who loved her had quietly died. The man standing in front of her now was just handling the paperwork. "I want a divorce," I said. "You can't do this to Jamie. Don't. Don't you dare use my son as a shield." The papers were served within the week. Grace signed them faster than I expected. Her attorney probably told her that a military court's sympathy for infidelity during deployment is exactly 0. Her family came. Her mother, her sister, her cousin who's a pastor. They sat in my living room and spoke about forgiveness and family and God's plan. I listened politely. Then I told them their daughter had been sleeping with my best friend in my bed while my son was in physical therapy down the hall. And I watched every righteous face in that room rearrange itself. I enrolled Jamie in a specialized boarding school, one with a dedicated muscular dystrophy program, full-time physical therapist, adapted facilities. The kind of place that could give him consistency I couldn't guarantee between deployments. Signing those enrollment papers was harder than signing the divorce. The divorce was cutting away something dead. This was letting go of something alive. I drive home now to a house with a guest house out back that I can't look at. I served my country. I served my family. I served my brother. And in the end, the only one who served me back was a 6-year-old boy who didn't even know what he was saying. He just told the truth. Something none of the adults in his life had the decency to do.
Story 2.
raised my little sister like she was my own daughter. Paid for her school, her clothes, her food, her phone, her entire existence. And she repaid me by climbing into my husband's bed while I was 8 months pregnant and too sick to climb out of mine. So here's what happened. My sister spent months seducing my husband through Instagram reels and late night texts, convinced that stealing him meant stealing the lifestyle. What she didn't realize is that every dollar she ever envied was mine, not his. And by the time I finished gathering evidence, she destroyed the only relationship that was actually keeping her alive. I'm 34 female, and until recently I was funding everyone around me. My husband is Paul 37, the kind of man who doesn't start fires but will absolutely watch your house burn down. My sister is Vanessa. 22, hasn't worked a day in her life. Doesn't wake up before noon, and was still using the email account I created for her as a teenager. And my mother is Gloria, who tried her best to keep the peace right up until the moment peace was no longer an option. Let me take you back to the beginning, because betrayal doesn't arrive like a thunderstorm. It seeps in like carbon monoxide, odorless, invisible, and by the time you notice, you're already on the floor. My pregnancy was classified as high risk at 14 weeks. Preeclampsia. The doctor was blunt, bed rest monitoring, no stress. I remember looking at Paul when she said no stress, and almost laughing, because stress was the only thing that man consistently provided. Paul wasn't cruel during the pregnancy. He was something worse, absent. Not physically, he was in the house. He was on the couch. He was in the kitchen making himself dinner without asking if I'd eaten. He existed in the same square footage as me while operating like I was furniture. I asked him to come to my 20-week scan. He said he had a meeting. I asked him to come to the 24-week scan. He said he forgot. I asked him to come to the 28-week scan, and he looked at me like I was being unreasonable and said, "You never told me it was important." I never told him it was important. His wife, carrying his child, with a condition that could kill both of us, and he needed a formal invitation. But I rationalized it. I'm good at that. I told myself he was scared that some men process fear as distance, that once the baby arrived, he'd snap into place. I told myself every lie that exhausted pregnant women tell themselves at 3 a.m. when their husband is sleeping soundly and they can't breathe properly because their blood pressure is trying to end them. Meanwhile, Vanessa was living in our guest bedroom 3 days a week. My idea. I wanted help around the house since Paul clearly wasn't offering, and Vanessa had no job, no commitments, no reason to say no. She graduated with an undergraduate degree she didn't earn. She had yet to find her passion. That was the phrase she used, like passion was a set of lost car keys. Coming autumn, she was enrolling for her master's, and guess who was paying for it? Me. Always me. So she'd come over, make lunch, she didn't clean up, watch TV in the living room with Paul while I lay in bed upstairs listening to their laughter leak through the floor. I didn't think anything of it. She was my little sister. He was my husband. The geometry of suspicion didn't apply to them. My daughter was born 5 weeks early. Emergency C-section. I hemorrhaged on the table. They gave me 2 units of blood. When I woke up, Paul was in the chair beside me, scrolling his phone. He looked up and said, "Oh good, you're awake. Your mom's with the baby." Not, I was terrified. Not, thank God. Just logistics. The first 3 months postpartum were a fog of night feeds, stitches that wouldn't heal, and a husband who touched me only to hand me the baby when she cried. I was too depleted to analyze it. But my body knew something my mind hadn't caught up to yet because I stopped sleeping through the night even when the baby did. That's how I found him. 2:30 a.m. on a Tuesday. I woke up to a blue glow. Paul was lying on his side phone, tucked under the edge of his pillow, texting with the screen brightness turned down to almost nothing. When I shifted, he killed the screen so fast his knuckle cracked against the nightstand. "Who are you texting?" "No one." Work group chat. At 2:30 a.m. "Time zones," he said and rolled over. Time zones. The man worked for a local insurance firm. Their most exotic client was a dentist in the next town over. I didn't push it. Not because I believed him, but because something cold and precise had just switched on inside me and it told me times don't react. Collect. Asterisk. Over the next 2 weeks I watched. Paul had started locking his phone, new behavior. He showered before bed now, instead of in the morning. He'd disappear into the garage to check on the car for 40 minutes at a time. And he was spending money. I found the trail on our shared PC where he'd forgotten to log out of his email. Hotel bookings at a boutique place 40 minutes outside the city. Restaurant bills at places he'd never taken me. A receipt from a women's clothing store, size 4. I'm a size on. I screenshotted everything, saved it to a folder labeled Tax Documents 2024, and I waited. The identity of the other woman was the one piece I couldn't crack. No name in the bookings, no tagged photos, just charges, times, and a pattern that told me this had been going on for months, overlapping almost perfectly with my 3rd trimester. So I made the mistake that broke the case wide open. I called Vanessa. I told her I thought Paul was cheating. I asked for her advice. She gasped in all the right places. She said all the right words. And within 6 hours, Paul casually mentioned that I should stop snooping through his emails because it was a violation of trust. I hadn't told a single other soul. My hands went numb. I stood in my kitchen holding a bottle of formula and the room tilted. Because there was only one person who could have told him. And that person had just revealed not only that she was his informant, but exactly how close to him she actually was. The next morning, I woke up before dawn. Vanessa was asleep in the guest room. My mother was babysitting my daughter in the living room, and I sat down at my iPad with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. While she was sleeping, I logged into her email on my iPad. It wasn't difficult. She was still using the same email ID I created for her when she was in her teens. I just needed the one-time password, which I checked through the lock screen of her phone. She'd left it charging on the kitchen counter face up like someone who'd never once had to worry about being surveilled. Because I'd never given her a reason to. Then through that, I accessed all of her backed up WhatsApp chats. I transferred everything to my email ID. I also logged into her Instagram and Facebook using the email ID and fetched everything I could. It didn't take time. Besides, it was still 9 inches the morning and she doesn't wake up before 12. My mother was babysitting my daughter while I was gathering the evidence. She was suspicious to find me doing something intently on the iPad instead of resting. She asked if everything was okay. I told her I was handling some work invoices. She nodded and went back to singing to the baby. The WhatsApp thread between Vanessa and Paul was 4217 messages long. I didn't read them all that morning. I didn't need to. The first 50 told me the architecture. The Instagram DMs filled in the blueprint. It started with Reels. She'd send him funny clips, memes, the kind of low-stakes digital flirtation that gives you plausible deniability. Then selfies. Then selfies with captions. Then selfies without clothes. Then logistics, where to meet, what time I'd be asleep, how long my doctor's appointments lasted. She had used my medical schedule as her affair calendar. One message sent during my 32nd week of pregnancy read times. She's on bed rest till delivery. We have time. Asterisk. My vision went white. Not red. White. Like every color in the world had been burned out of my retinas. I saved everything. Organized it chronologically. Then I closed the iPad, washed my face, and called my parents. I told my father to bring Gloria over that afternoon. I told him it was a family matter. He didn't ask questions. He never does when my voice sounds like that. Paul was at work. Vanessa serviced around 1230, shuffling into the kitchen in pajama shorts. I'd bought her eating cereal from a bowl I purchased for my home. She smiled at me, asked how the baby slept. Fine, I said. My parents are coming over at 3. I I need you here. For what? Family meeting. She shrugged. Didn't even flinch. By 3 p.m., everyone was seated in my living room. My father in the armchair. Gloria on the love seat, already nervous because she could read the room's temperature. Paul on the couch, leg bouncing. And Vanessa cross-legged on the floor with a glass of juice, looking bored. I stood. I didn't sit because sitting would make this a discussion. Standing made it a verdict. Vanessa, I said, tell everyone in this room what you've been doing with my husband. The glass of juice stopped halfway to her mouth. Paul's leg stopped bouncing. Gloria's hand went to her chest. What are you talking about? Vanessa said, but her voice had already cracked on times, talking asterisk. I have 4,000 messages. I have the photos you sent him. I have the hotel confirmations. I have the shopping receipts, size 4, Vanessa. Tell them, or I read every word out loud, starting with the one where you said, my bed rest gave you time, asterisk. Silence. The kind that has weight. Then Paul, listen, let's not. You don't speak. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. You will get your turn when the divorce papers arrive. Vanessa started crying. Performative at first, the kind of tears she'd used since childhood to redirect blame. But I didn't move. I didn't comfort. I stood there like a wall and waited. Fine, she whispered, then louder, fine. Yes, it happened. How long? Since before the baby. Gloria made a sound like she'd been punched. Tell them why, I said. Tell them exactly why. And this is where Vanessa made her final miscalculation. She could have begged. She could have crumbled. Instead, something bitter and honest broke through the performance. And she looked at me with 12 years of swallowed resentment and said, because I was done being your puppet. You held everything over me, school, clothes, rent. You got to be the generous one, and I got to be grateful forever. I wanted something that was times yours, times for once. Something you couldn't give me permission to have. The room didn't breathe. Gloria stood up and slapped her. Open palm. The sound cracked through the living room like a branch snapping. My father caught Gloria's arm before the second one landed. I looked at my sister, this girl I had fed, clothed, educated, and loved, with every maternal instinct I had before my own daughter existed, and I said the last words I would ever say to her in that house. The money was never his. Every dollar, the tuition, the car, the clothes on your back right now, that was mine. My business. My accounts. My savings. You didn't steal from him. You stole from times me asterisk. And you didn't even get the math right. Her face collapsed. Not from guilt. From the realization that she'd burned down the wrong house. I filed for divorce within 20 days. My lawyer was surgical. The house was mine, purchased before the marriage, titled in my name. Full custody was uncontested. Paul didn't fight it because fighting required a spine he'd never grown. My private savings, my business accounts, my investments, none of it was joint. Paul walked away with his clothes, his car payment, and a child support obligation he immediately couldn't afford. He moved back to his parents' 2-bedroom house. Vanessa, I learned through Gloria, was given 60 days to find employment or leave their home. Paul and Vanessa didn't last. Of course they didn't. She wanted the lifestyle. He times the lifestyles plus 1. Without me funding the machinery, there was nothing between them but 4, 2, 1, 7 messages and a hotel room neither of them could book again. Gloria calls me weekly. She cries. She asks if I'll ever forgive Vanessa. I tell her I love her and I change the subject. That's the only answer I have that isn't cruel. Last night, my daughter grabbed my finger and babbled something that sounded almost like a word. I sat on the floor of the house that is mine in the silence that is mine, and I felt something I hadn't felt in over a year. Not happiness. Not yet. But space. Clean, empty, unparasitized space. And for now, that's enough.
Story 3.
My mother made me promise that she'd always be the first phone call whenever something good happened in my life. Not because she wanted to celebrate with me, because she wanted a head start on figuring out how to ruin it. 2 stories tonight. In the first, a bride watches her own mother announce a surprise wedding 1 week before her skip the rehearsal fake. An early flight home and secretly honeymoon in New York City while her daughter's wedding cake was still being cut. In the second, a woman's boyfriend drops serious money on a birthday gift that would literally make her physically ill, then tells her she could just push through it. I'm 26 female, recently married to my husband Marcus, and currently pregnant with our first child. My mother is Diane, and Diane doesn't do supporting roles. Then we've got Derek, a boyfriend who thinks listening and nodding are the same thing, and his sister Megan, who accidentally blew the whole thing wide open. The first time I called Diane with good news, I was sitting in Marcus's car in the parking lot of a Thai restaurant still shaking. He proposed 20 minutes earlier, right there at our table, and I'd said yes before he finished the sentence. My hands were trembling so hard I could barely unlock my phone. I called her first. Before my best friend. Before Marcus's parents. Before anyone. Because that was the rule. She picked up on the 4th ring. Marcus proposed, I said, "Mom, I'm engaged." 3 seconds of silence. Then a sigh. "Well," she said, "I'm sure I'm the last to know." I looked at Marcus. He was watching my face, and I watched his expression shift from hopeful to something harder. I put her on speaker so he could hear. "You're literally the first person I call." Another sigh. "I just would have liked to have been involved, that's all. But I guess that's not how you do things." Marcus reached over and squeezed my knee. I stared at the engagement ring, still warm from his hands, and felt something small and bright inside me flicker and dim. That was the template. That was always the template. I just didn't recognize it yet. The engagement party was 3 weeks later. My best friend organized it. She'd be my maid of honor, and she threw herself into planning with the kind of energy that made me feel, for the first time, like someone was genuinely excited for me. Diane showed up 40 minutes late in a white dress. During the toast, she started crying. Not quiet tears. Full-body, shoulder-shaking sobs that made the entire room pivot toward her. Marcus's mother actually got up from her seat to bring Diane a glass of water. I stood there holding a champagne flute, smiling, watching my own engagement toast become a group effort to comfort my mother. "She's just emotional," my dad Greg said afterward, not meeting my eyes. She wore white dad. He shrugged. "You know how she is." I did. That was the problem. A month later, Marcus and I attended a friend's wedding. Diane was there too, with Carlos, her boyfriend of maybe 4 months at that point. Carlos didn't speak English. They communicated through Google Translate, holding his phone between them like a walkie-talkie, and Diane spoke about this like it was the most romantic thing that had ever happened to a human being. During the reception, I watched from across the room as Diane dragged Carlos onto the dance floor and ground against him to a Bruno Mars song, while the bride's elderly grandmother sat 3 feet away, frozen mid-bite. Marcus put his hand on the small of my back. "Your mom is?" "I know. She's really I times no asterisk." The bridal shower was next. My maid of honor spent weeks on it. Hand-addressed invitations, a mimosa bar, little games with photos of Marcus and me from college. It was beautiful. Diane sat in the corner on her phone for 2.5 hours. She didn't participate in a single game. When I opened gifts, she watched with this flat, distant expression like she was sitting in a waiting room. She gave me a set of dish towels, not wrapped, still in the plastic bag from Home Goods receipt tucked inside. I thanked her. She said, "Mm-hmm." My maid of honor found me in the bathroom afterward, mascara running. She didn't say anything. She just locked the door and sat on the edge of the tub while I cried. When I found out I was pregnant, I called Diane first. Again. Because the rule was the rule, and I was still at 26, a daughter reaching out her hand to a woman who kept biting it. "Mom, I'm pregnant." Dead air. Then in the flattest monotone I have ever heard from a living human, "Oh, okay. Marcus and I are really excited." That's nice. She didn't ask how far along I was. She didn't ask about due dates or names or how I was feeling. She asked if I'd talked to Greg yet, and when I said no, she said, "Well, he'll probably be more excited than me since I'm always the last to hear anything." Marcus was standing in the kitchen doorway. I could see his jaw working. I hung up and set my phone face down on the counter. "She's done," he said quietly. "She's my mom. She's times done, times babe." Then came the wedding budget conversation. I gave Diane a full year's notice. 12 months to save to plan to book a flight. She told me she couldn't afford to attend. Couldn't swing it. Too expensive. I offered to help with the flight. She declined. I offered to let her stay with us. She declined. Every solution I presented, she swatted away like a fly. Then exactly 1 week before my wedding, my phone buzzed. It was a photo. Diane and Carlos standing in front of a courthouse holding a marriage certificate. She was beaming the kind of unguarded, radiant smile I had never once seen directed at anything I had accomplished. The caption read, "Time surprise, we're married, asterisk." She'd known Carlos for 5 months. They still use Google Translate. Part of her reasoning for getting married before me was so that they could make this trip about times them, asterisk. I didn't understand that yet. Not fully. Not until the wedding weekend when everything Diane had been building toward finally detonated. And detonate it did. The rehearsal dinner was Friday night. Diane didn't show. No call. No text. No explanation. My maid of honor kept checking her phone for me so I wouldn't have to, and every time she looked up and gave a small shake of her head, I just nodded and kept eating. Marcus's parents filled the silence beautifully. His mother told embarrassing stories about him. As a toddler, his father made a toast that made everyone cry. It was warm. It was generous. It was everything. Diane rolled in Saturday morning, 4 hours before the ceremony, Carlos in tow. She found me in the bridal suite while my maid of honor was pinning my veil. "There's my baby," she said, and before I could respond, both her hands were on my stomach. Palms flat, fingers spread, pressing into my belly like she was claiming territory. I was 5 months pregnant. I hadn't invited the touch. My body went rigid and my maid of honor's hands froze mid-pin. "Oh, stop. I'm your times, mother, asterisk." She squeezed once, then stepped back and looked me over. Not at my dress. Not at my veil. At my body with an expression I can only describe as inventory. "You're showing more than I thought you would." My maid of honor set down the pins. "Diane, we need to finish getting her ready." "Fine, fine." She waved a hand. "Carlos is looking for the seating chart. He needs to sit next to me. He won't know anyone." She left. My maid of honor locked the door behind her and we looked at each other in the mirror. Neither of us said anything. She just picked up the pins and kept going. The ceremony was beautiful. I need to say that. Marcus cried when he saw me. I cried when I saw him cry. The officiant mispronounced Marcus as Marcos twice, and we laughed both times, and for 22 minutes, standing under an arch my maid of honor had wrapped in eucalyptus at 6 in the morning, I forgot about Diane entirely. Then came photos. The photographer lined up family shots, and Diane refused to smile in any frame that didn't include Carlos. Arms crossed, mouth flat, dead-eyed until he stepped in beside her, at which point she lit up like a marquee. In my wedding photos, at my wedding, the photographer looked at me with a question on her face, and I just said, "Move on." During the reception, my father Greg walked me onto the dance floor for the father-daughter dance. We made it maybe 90 seconds in before I noticed him glancing over my shoulder. I turned. Lily, my 14-year-old sister, was sitting at the head table with her arms folded, crying. Not sad crying. Furious crying. The kind of crying that is a weapon. She doesn't like the food, Greg murmured. She's times 14, asterisk. I know, sweetheart, but... Dad. It's our dance. He looked at me. He looked at Lily. And I watched him make the calculation, in real time, the same calculation he had been making my entire life. "I'll be right back," he said. He left the dance floor during our father-daughter dance. He left the reception, got in his car, and drove to Subway to buy Lily a sandwich. My maid of honor grabbed Marcus, and Marcus stepped in to finish the dance with me, his hand firm on my back, his mouth close to my ear. "I've got you," he said. I pressed my face into his shoulder so no one could see it crumble. By 9 o'clock, Diane's entire side had cleared out. She claimed early flights. Everyone had early flights. Couldn't stay. So sorry. Hugs and congratulations, and gone. 3 days later, my bridesmaid texted me a screenshot from Instagram. Diane beaming in front of the Statue of Liberty, Carlos's arm around her waist. Caption times, honeymoon vibes, NYC baby asterisk. There were no early flights. There was never a budget problem. She'd married Carlos a week before my wedding, so this trip could double as times their times honeymoon, and she'd ship my younger brother home on an earlier flight alone to make the timeline work. She'd use my wedding as a layover. I stared at that screenshot for a long time. Then I set my phone down and felt something I didn't expect. Relief. I went no contact. Diane's texts came in waves, breezy at first, then confused, then wounded, then furious. I let them pile up unread for 2 weeks before I finally responded with a message listing everything. Every white dress, every dead monotone, every stolen dance, every lie about flights. She responded to 3 items. The 3 she could defend. The rest she ignored entirely, then pivoted times. I guess I'm just a terrible mother. I guess nothing I do is ever enough for you, asterisk. I typed back, times I need space. Please respect that. Asterisk. She did not respect that. But I kept the door closed anyway. Here's what I know now. Diane never wanted to be the first person called with good news. She wanted to be the Times, only Times news. Every milestone I reached was a mirror she couldn't stand looking into, so she smashed it and built her own reflection in the shards. The courthouse wedding, the honeymoon hijack, the grinding on Carlos at someone else's reception, none of it was about love or joy. It was about gravity. Hers. I'm married to my best friend. I'm growing a human. And for the first time in 26 years, my happiness belongs to me. No one is standing at the edges trying to eat it alive. As for Diane, she has shown her jealousy. She did not care about being there for me, but about being closer to New York City. And the next thing would have been making my pregnancy about her becoming a grandparent. I'm done reaching out my hand. The bite marks have finally scarred over.
Story 4.
installed a baby monitor to keep my daughter safe. It ended up recording my wife sleeping with the man I called my brother. Every red flag was there: the sudden coldness, the rage over a phone call, the lies about where he was, and I explained away every single one because I trusted them both with my life. I was so busy being the perfect husband that I couldn't see my marriage was a crime scene. I'm 28 and my wife is Jane. Our daughter Lily was 8 months old when everything fell apart. Jane's sister Bonnie and her husband Dave had just moved close to us. Dave, the guy I grabbed beers with, the guy I let into my home whenever he wanted. Bonnie became my only ally in this because, as it turns out, Dave wasn't just betraying me. He was betraying her too. The pregnancy was easy. The birth was not. Jane was in labor for 19 hours. I held her hand through every single one. When Lily finally came, red-faced, screaming, and possibly small, I looked at Jane and saw something I'd never seen before. Not joy. Not relief. Nothing. She stared at the ceiling like she'd left her body and hadn't come back yet. I told myself it was exhaustion. I told myself a lot of things over the next few months. The first 2 weeks home, Jane barely touched Lily. She'd hold her when I placed her in her arms, but like someone holding a stranger's coat, politely, temporarily waiting to hand it back. She stopped eating full meals. She'd shower at 3 a.m. Or not at all. I'd wake up and find her sitting on the edge of the bed, in the dark, just breathing. I did what I thought a good husband does. I took 3 weeks off work. I handled every night, feeding every diaper every 2 a.m. Scream that rattled through the house. I researched postpartum depression until my eyes burned. I found a therapist who specialized in it, Dr. Kessler, Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. I drove Jane to every appointment. I hired a part-time nanny named Rosa so Jane could rest. I made myself smaller and smaller so she'd have room to heal. And it seemed to work. Slowly. Jane started smiling again around month 4. She'd laugh at something Lily did. A bubble, a grab at my nose, and I'd feel my chest crack open with relief. When Bonnie and Dave moved 20 minutes away that same month, things accelerated. Jane had her sister close. Dave and I would grill on weekends while Bonnie and Jane sat on the porch with Lily between them. It felt like we'd survived something. Like the worst was behind us. I planned a date night for our anniversary, 5 months since Lily was born. I booked the Italian place where I'd proposed, the one with the terrible breadsticks and the candles that drip wax on the tablecloth. Rosa agreed to watch Lily. I bought Jane a necklace, nothing expensive, just a small gold chain with Lily's birthstone. I was nervous. Stupidly, embarrassingly nervous, like I was asking her out for the first time. I told her over breakfast. Casual. Light. I got us a reservation Saturday. That place on Elm. Rosa's coming at 6. Jane's spoon stopped halfway to her mouth. She set it down. I don't want to go. Okay. We can go somewhere else. Anywhere you. I said I don't want to go. Her voice had a blade in it. Why do you keep pushing? Why can't you just leave things alone? I sat there with the necklace box in my jacket pocket, feeling it press against my ribs like a bruise. Lily babbled in her high chair. The kitchen faucet dripped. I'm not pushing. I just thought, you always times think asterisk. You think and you plan and you schedule and it's suffocating. Do you understand that I can't breathe? She left the room. I heard the bedroom door close. Not a slam worse. A quiet, deliberate click. I sat at that table for 20 minutes. Then I canceled the reservation, returned the necklace, and told myself it was the depression. She was still healing. I was being selfish. I needed to be more patient. I was so patient, I was blind. The red flags came one at a time after that, spaced out just enough that I could file each one away individually like they were unrelated incidents instead of a trail of gasoline leading to the same fire. A few weeks later, it became clear to me why she had been acting that way, or at least I thought it would become clear. Instead, I got more confusion. I was sitting in the living room and Lily was in her cot. Jane was in the kitchen making lunch for us. Her phone began to ring. At the same time, Lily began to cry, and I had to pick her up. I called Jane, but she probably didn't hear me. I took the phone to take it to Jane, but saw on screen that it was David who was calling her. I picked up the phone thinking it must be about Bonnie, but it was actually David wanting Jane directly. He was a little disturbed when he heard my voice, as if he was not expecting me. I asked him how he was, and then he told me that he had dialed Jane's number by mistake. He had meant to call someone else. He muttered, and then hung up the call without saying goodbye. I stood there with Lily on my hip and Jane's phone warm in my hand. Something flickered in my gut, not suspicion exactly, more like a question mark that appeared and disappeared before I could read it. Then Jane walked in. She saw her phone in my hand, and her face changed. Not anger, not yet, something faster. Fear. Who was that? Dave. He said he called you by accident. The fear vanished. Anger replaced it, instant, scalding, disproportionate. Why are you answering my phone? Lily was crying. I was bringing it to you. It's my time's phone. You don't touch my phone. Jane, I wasn't. Don't do it again. She took it from my hand and walked out. Lily grabbed a fistful of my shirt and gurgled. I bounced her gently, staring at the empty doorway, and told myself, times, she's stressed. She's protective of her space. You're overthinking this. Asterisk. 2 days later, Bonnie called me. Her voice was strange, thin, careful, like she was testing ice before stepping on it. Hey. Quick question. Was Dave at your place Tuesday afternoon? No. Why? A pause. Long enough to hear her breathing. He told me he was helping you fix your deck. My stomach dropped an inch. I didn't ask him to fix anything. Another pause. Then Bonnie laughed short, hollow, unconvincing. He probably mixed up the days. Forget it. Forget I said anything. I forgot nothing. But I did nothing either. Because Dave was my brother in every way that mattered, and Jane was my wife. And the alternative to trusting them was a darkness I wasn't ready to walk into. 3 weeks later, Bonnie called me again. This time she wasn't careful. This time her voice was shaking. Can you meet me? The cafe on 3rd Street. Come alone. Don't tell Jane. I drove to the cafe on 3rd Street with my hand steady on the wheel and my chest full of something I couldn't name. Not dread. Not yet. Something quieter, the feeling of a door about to open onto a room you've been pretending doesn't exist. Bonnie was already there. Back corner booth. No coffee. Her eyes were swollen, her mascara gone, her hair pulled back in a way that said she hadn't looked in a mirror and didn't care. She had her phone face down on the table, both hands pressed flat on either side of it like she was keeping it pinned. I sat down. She didn't say hello. I need you to watch something. Her voice was steady in the way that things are steady right before they shatter, held together by pure will. And I need you to not speak until it's done. Bonnie, what's... Don't. She held up one hand. Please. If I stop, I won't be able to start again. She turned the phone over. Tapped the screen. Slid it across the table. The image was grainy, slightly fish-eyed. I recognized it immediately, the wide-angle view from Lily's baby monitor, the one I'd installed myself. Angled to cover her crib, and the stretch of hallway visible through the open nursery door. The timestamp read Tuesday. The Tuesday Bonnie had called asking about the deck. For 3 seconds, nothing. The crib was empty. Lily was with Rosa downstairs. I could do the math. Then 2 figures moved into frame through the hallway. Jane. Dave. His hand on the small of her back. her hand reaching behind her to close the nursery door, but not all the way, not enough, because the monitor kept recording through the gap. I watched my wife kiss the man I called my brother. I watched his hands move to places that belonged to a life I thought I was living. I watched them stumble toward the guest room across the hall, half visible through the cracked door, and I watched enough to understand everything I had refused to understand for months. The video was 41 seconds long. It destroyed 29 years of the person I thought I was. Bonnie reached across and took the phone back. I let her. My hands were on the table and they weren't shaking, which surprised me because everything inside me was collapsing. Walls, floors, foundations, all of it folding inward like a building coming down in controlled demolition. How long? My voice came out flat. Someone else's voice. I don't know. Weeks, months. Bonnie's chin trembled. He's been lying about where he goes. I checked his location history, your house. Over and over. Always when you're at work. The cafe noise filled the silenced espresso machine, a child laughing somewhere, a spoon against ceramic. Normal sounds from a world I no longer lived in. I want to burn their lives down, Bonnie said. Not angry. Factual. Like she was reading a weather report. And I want them to watch it happen. I looked at her. She looked at me. And something passed between us. Not romance, not comfort, nothing soft. An alliance. The cold, clean understanding of two people standing in the same wreckage. What did you have in mind? We planned it in 4 days. Bonnie handled logistics with the precision of someone converting grief into architecture. I handled my face, the hardest part. Going home to Jane, eating dinner across from her, watching her smile at Lily, knowing every gesture was a performance I'd been applauding for months. Saturday. Jane's birthday. The party she thought Bonnie was throwing. For her family, friends, both sets of parents, the whole congregation of people whose love she'd been borrowing against. The venue was Bonnie's house. Streamers. Cake. A projector screen. Dave himself helped me carry in from the garage, grinning, clapping my shoulder, calling me brother. I let him. I smiled back. I felt nothing. At 7:15, Bonnie clinked her glass. The room quieted. 30 people turned toward the screen. We put together a little slideshow, Bonnie said. Memories of Jane. Jane beamed. Dave stood beside her, beer in hand, relaxed. The first 3 slides were real wedding photos, Lily's birth, a Christmas morning. People laughed. Jane wiped her eyes. The 4th slide was the baby monitor footage. The room didn't gasp. It went vacuum silent. The kind of silence that has weight that presses against your eardrums. Jane's mother stood up first, then sat down, then stood up again across the room and slapped her daughter across the face, open palm, sharp enough to echo. Dave dropped his beer. It shattered on the hardwood. He looked at Bonnie. Bonnie stared back with dry eyes and a face made of stone. I filed for divorce this morning, I said. My voice carried in the silence without effort. Jane, you'll be hearing from my attorney about custody of Lily. Dave, Bonnie's already filed too. Jane opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Dave reached for her arm. She flinched away from him. He stood there with his hand in the air, reaching for something that was already gone. The aftermath moved fast. Both marriages dissolved within 60 days. I secured joint custody of Lily with a clear path toward full. Bonnie's friend, the one who'd hired Dave at her marketing firm, fired him the following Monday. No severance. No reference. He moved into a studio apartment across town, jobless and radioactive. Jane tried to call me 11 times the first week. I answered none of them. There was nothing she could say that would rebuild what she detonated, and I was done being the man who absorbed explosions and called it love. I moved in with my college friend Marcus. Small apartment, thin walls, a kitchen the size of a closet. Lily's crib fit perfectly in the corner of my room. I'd stand over it at night and watch her sleep, her fist curled against her cheek, her breathing so light it barely moved the blanket, and I'd feel something I hadn't felt in months. Clarity. Not happiness. Not yet. But the clean, sharp-edged knowledge that I was finally standing in the truth, even though the truth had gutted me. I was done being patient with people who mistook my patience for blindness. Done scolding myself for the suspicions that had been right all along. Lily stirred, grabbed at the air. I gave her my finger, and she held on. The one pure thing.
Story 5.
My 6-year-old daughter was home sick from school watching videos on the iPad, and she swiped one screen too far. That single swipe detonated 2 marriages, exposed a double life built on deleted messages and cheer gym alibis, and proved that in 2 completely different households, cheaters will hand you the evidence themselves if you just stop looking away. One story unfolds over agonizing months, the other collapses in 48 hours. Both end the same way. So let me set the stage. Story 1. I'm a guy in my early 30s. My wife is Melanie. The man she's been hiding is Derek, and his wife Tanya didn't know either. Our daughter Lily is 6. Story 2. I'm a woman fresh out of postpartum hell. My husband is Craig. His co-worker is Vanessa. And his own mother Diane is the one who opened the door when I sent him home for good. Number Part 1. The Catalyst and the Escalation. Number, Story 1. Lily had been running a fever since Monday. Nothing alarming, 101, hovering there like it couldn't commit, but enough to keep her home. I set her up on the couch with the iPad, a blanket, and a rotation of Disney movies she'd already memorized. I was in the kitchen making soup when she called out, "Daddy, what's this?" Kids ask that 40 times a day. I almost didn't look. But something in her voice, confusion, not curiosity, pulled me around the counter. She'd swiped out of YouTube Kids and into the photo gallery. On the screen was a screenshot from TikTok. 2 accounts side by side, their display names formatted like a couple's joke, times Mr. Nobody can know about us, times and times Mrs. Nobody can know about us. Asterisk. One of them was Melanie's account. I took the iPad gently. Just mommy's silly stuff, baby. Here, let's find Moana. My hands were steady. My chest was not. I knew the name on the other account. Not yet. But I knew the shape of what I was looking at. You don't name yourself times nobody can know about us times with your husband. Here's the thing about Melanie and me. We'd been together 7 years. Married 4. I came into this relationship with her son Marcus, who was 8. And I raised that boy like mine. Then we had the twins, 12 now, and Lily. I coached Marcus's baseball team. I packed lunches at 5 a.m. I was the one who stayed up when any of them had fevers, which is why I was home that Monday and Melanie wasn't. Melanie had gotten deep into competitive cheer over the past year. Lily's gym had a parent volunteer squad, and Melanie ran it. Fundraisers, competitions, weekend events. She was always at that gym. I thought it was good for her. She'd seemed checked out for months, tired, distant, short with me in ways that felt rehearsed, and I told myself the cheer community was giving her something I couldn't. Then came Salsa Fest. Our town does this annual food festival, and the cheer gym had a booth. Melanie volunteered to coordinate it, which meant late nights at the gym, prepping decorations, weekend supply runs, group text chains she was always glancing at. I didn't question it. I was too busy holding the household together while she built a life I apparently wasn't part of. The TikTok screenshot sat in my mind like a splinter. couldn't stop touching it. That night, after Lily fell asleep, I checked Melanie's phone while she showered. Nothing. Her iMessages were clean, suspiciously clean actually. Whole days with no text to anyone. That's not how Melanie operates. She texts like she breathes. Then I remembered I'm on Android. She's on Apple. Her iMessages only sync to Apple devices. The iPad. The Apple Watch. I waited. I want to be clear about that. I didn't blow up. I didn't confront. I watched. For weeks, I cataloged every late night, every the gym needs me excuse, every time she came home, smelling like a car ride with the windows down like she'd been airing herself out. I figured out who Derek was through the Cheer Gym's Facebook page. He was a dad in the same parent circle, mid-30s, married to a woman named Tanya, 2 kids of his own. He coached at the gym on weekends. The same weekends, Melanie was always there. Their phones were synced in ways mine never was to hers. That was the tell. She'd set up her ecosystem iPad phone watch as a closed loop. Everything Apple, everything connected. But she forgot that a closed loop means if one device is unguarded, they all are. It was a Sunday evening. Lily was finally better back in her room playing. Melanie was in the shower again, always in the shower, always needing 30 minutes of hot water and privacy. Her Apple Watch was on the nightstand screen up charging. I told myself I wouldn't look. I looked. The messages loaded like a wound opening. Derek's name over and over. Not just texts, voice memos, photos. I had to set the watch down after seeing and conversations so intimate they read like a parallel marriage. Asterisk, I love you. I can't stop thinking about you. Last night was everything. Asterisk, timestamps from days I thought she was at fundraiser meetings. From nights she said she was exhausted and went to bed early. I scrolled until my vision blurred. Weeks of messages. Months. An entire relationship architected inside a device I paid for on a phone plan with my name on it. My hands were shaking so badly the watch almost slipped off the nightstand. Then I heard the shower shut off. I had maybe 60 seconds before she walked out in her towel, saw my face, and knew everything. 60 seconds to decide whether to scream, to cry, to photograph every message on that tiny screen, or to wait and let her walk straight into what was coming. The bathroom door handle turned. I put the watch down, sat on the edge of the bed, folded my hands like a man in a waiting room. Melanie came out in her towel, hair dripping, and didn't even glance at me. She walked to the dresser, pulled out pajamas, and started her routine like I was furniture. We need to talk, I said. She didn't turn around. About what? About Derek. The pause was maybe 2 seconds. But I watched her shoulders climb toward her ears and freeze there, and those 2 seconds told me everything her mouth was about to spend the next hour lying about. Melanie. She turned. Her face was already assembling itself, confusion first, then concern, then a careful calibrated hurt. Babe, what are you talking about? I read the watch. The assembly collapsed. What replaced it wasn't guilt. It was calculation. I could see her running the math, what was on there, how much I'd seen, what could be explained away. She sat on the bed, not next to me, and pulled the towel tighter. Okay. I know how that looks. But I need you to listen to me. You don't get to manage this. I'm not Times managing Times anything. I went outside tonight to tell him it's over. That's what you saw. I was ending it. You were ending it. On a Sunday night, in our bedroom, on your watch. With love, confessions, and pictures I can't unsee. Those were old. I hadn't deleted. They were timestamped, Times Thursday, Times Melanie. She stood up, walked to the nightstand, picked up the Apple Watch with the casualness of someone checking the time. and in the 60 seconds it took me to process what she was doing, she cleared every message thread on the device. Just erased it. Right in front of me. Like wiping a counter. There, she said. It's done. He's done. I chose you. Can we please? You just destroyed evidence in front of my face and you're asking me to move on. It wasn't times evidence times, it was a conversation I was already... Get out of this room. She slept on the couch. Or didn't sleep, I don't know, and I didn't care. I sat in the dark with my phone and pulled our wireless account. Every call, every text, every data exchange logged to her number for the past 90 days. Derek's number appeared 847 times. 847 contacts in 3 months. Calls at midnight. Calls at 6 a.m. Calls during Lily's school pickup window. Texts and clusters of 40, 50, 60 per day conversations so constant, they look like a second heartbeat running parallel to our life. She never stopped talking to him. Not for a single day. The Sunday, she claimed she ended it. 14 calls. The longest was 43 minutes, placed at 11 p.m. After she told me she was going to bed early with a headache. I screenshotted everything. Saved it to a folder. Named it something Lily would never accidentally open. Monday morning, I called Tanya. I didn't plan a speech. I just said, I'm Melanie's husband. I think you need to look at your phone records. The silence on her end was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. Then very quietly, how long? Months. At least since the cheer season started. Probably longer. She thanked me. Her voice was shaking, but she thanked me, and I understood that she'd known something too. You always know. You just need someone to say it out loud so you can stop pretending. Tanya filed within 2 weeks. Derek moved out of their house and into an apartment across town. And here's the part that still makes my jaw tight. Melanie and Derek booked a weekend at a cabin before either divorce was finalized. They weren't even pretending anymore. The affair didn't end when it was exposed. It just stopped being a secret. The twins found out because 12-year-olds aren't stupid and walls aren't soundproof. I didn't tell them details. I told them Mommy and Daddy were separating and it wasn't their fault. They asked why. I said Mommy made choices that broke our family's trust. They chose me. Both of them, without hesitation, asked to stay in the house. I didn't celebrate that. It broke something in me that they had to choose at all. Marcus went with Melanie. I expected it. She's his biological mom, and her father had been whispering in his ear for weeks. But I coached that kid for 3 years. I taught him to tie his cleats. Losing him was its own grief, separate from the marriage, and I carry it differently. Lily just asks when Mommy's coming to pick her up. Every time my chest does the same thing it did the day she showed me that iPad screen. She came last week to get the rest of her things. Brought her aunt and uncle so it wouldn't be just us. I debated whether to even be here. I was. I stood in the kitchen and watched her pack boxes of a life she detonated, and I felt nothing I could name. A commenter told me I was far too kind to let her keep the car, the insurance, her half of the phone bill. They were right. I took the car back. Cut off the phone. She made the choice to cheat. She can figure out how to get around and text the guy she's cheating with on her own dime. I kept the house. I kept the kids who chose to stay. I filed, and my lawyer says the phone records and the timeline work in my favor. Do I have any experience with the online divorce process? No. I always preferred face-to-face. But all in all, everything is going as smoothly as it possibly can. Here's what I know. I lost my mom when I was 13 years old. Car accident, no warning, just a phone call and a world that rearranged itself overnight. I thought that was the floor. I thought nothing could reach down past that. This hurt worse. Not because Melanie was worth more than my mother, but because my mother didn't choose to leave. Melanie looked at everything we built, the kids, the house, the years, and decided it wasn't enough. She chose someone else and kept me around as infrastructure. I was the mortgage and the school pickups and the fever watch at 3 a.m. Derek was the TikTok names and the cabin weekends and the 43-minute midnight calls. The road ahead is mine. Just mine. And for the first time in months, that doesn't feel like a loss. It feels like the first honest thing in my life.
Story 6.
I let my brother move into my apartment out of pity, and he repaid me by turning it into a drug operation and stealing a $30,000 diamond ring right off my dresser. Here's the thing. I grew up being the one who held everything together, while my mother treated this man like he was made of glass. And the second I cracked my door open for him again, he walked in and dismantled my entire life piece by piece. But what I did when I finally caught him on camera, yeah, even I can't believe I went there. So let me set the stage. I'm 28, female, a nurse living in Brooklyn, just trying to keep my head above water. My brother is Mike, 27, supposedly in town for a job interview that never existed. My mom is Diane, his biggest enabler on planet Earth. My dad is Robert, the only decent one in that house, which is exactly why they use him against me. And my boyfriend is Marcus, 30, a lawyer, the one good thing in my life that Mike seemed personally determined to destroy. Let me take you back, because you don't just wake up one day and let a wolf through your front door. You build up to it through years of conditioning. Growing up in our house outside Philly, the rules were simple. Mike could do anything and I could do everything, meaning every chore, every responsibility, every cleanup of every mess he made. Diane worshipped that boy. He broke a window throwing a baseball inside. He's just being a kid. I forgot to defrost chicken for dinner once at age 12. You'd think I committed a federal crime. Robert saw it. He always saw it. But my father is a quiet man, the kind who shows love by working doubles at the plant and leaving cash in your backpack for field trips. He never had the vocabulary to fight Diane's machinery. Mike knew exactly what he had, and he used it like a weapon. When I was 16, I started dating a boy named Jalen. Sweet kid, played trumpet in the school band. Mike told Jalen I had an STD. Just walked right up to him in the cafeteria and said it loud enough for 3 tables to hear. Jalen never spoke to me again. When I confronted Mike, he laughed. When I told Diane, she said I was being dramatic and that Mike was just looking out for his sister. I locked myself in my bathroom and sat in the dry bathtub for 2 hours, staring at the ceiling, making a plan. The plan was simple: leave and never come back. I got a nursing scholarship. Moved to New York at 22. Built my life brick by brick, the apartment in Brooklyn, the career at the hospital, Marcus. I hadn't spoken to Mike in nearly 3 years when that text came through. Asterisk. Hey sis, got a job interview in the city next week. Can I crash for a couple days? I know we haven't been close, but I'm trying to get my life together. Mom said you'd say no, but I wanted to ask anyway. Asterisk. That last line. He knew exactly what he was doing with that last line. Because if Diane said I'd say no, then saying no meant proving her right, proving I was the cold, heartless daughter she always painted me as. And the thing is, I'd just taken a hit in the stock market. A bad one. A couple thousand I couldn't really afford to lose. So when Mike followed up with times I can pay rent if I stay a little longer, like $800 a month times something in my survival brain overrode my gut, I said yes. He showed up on a Tuesday with 2 duffel bags and a grin I should have recognized. The job interview was supposedly that Thursday. Thursday came. Thursday went. How'd it go, I asked, setting my keys on the counter after a 12-hour shift. They said they'd call back next week. He didn't look up from his phone. They never called back. Because they never existed. The first week, he was tolerable. Quiet, mostly. By week 2, my living room looked like a frat house had decomposed inside it. Doritos ground into the couch cushions. Dishes stacked in the sink with some kind of orange film I couldn't identify. Wet towels on the bathroom floor every single morning. I came home one night to find he'd left every light in the apartment on. And when I asked him to turn things off when he left a room, he said, and I quote, "Turning switches off and on too much damages the switchboard." I stood there holding my bag still in scrubs, feet aching in thought times. Did this man just make up electrical science to avoid flipping a light switch asterisk? But the rent. I needed the rent. So I swallowed it. Then I tried to have the conversation. The real one. "Mike, what's your timeline here? When are you planning to..." And to get his attention, he took his phone and pretended to talk to someone and left the room. This is not once, but multiple times. Whenever I tried talking to him about moving out, he acted dumb and busy, and started doing something on his phone or laptop. He'd suddenly have emails to send or calls to take the exact second I opened my mouth. My jaw would tighten so hard I'd taste metal. But above all these, he did something very terrible, and now I'm losing my real crap. So last week, I got to know that we were facing some shortage of staff at the hospital, so I was supposed to be working some extra hours. To make things easy for me, I told Mike that I'll be staying at my boyfriend's place, as it is near the hospital, and it will save me some commute time. I asked specifically and strictly to take care of my house in my absence, and not create any issues. But how can he sleep peacefully without creating any problems for me? On the second night I was gone, Marcus and I were eating Thai food on his couch. The first time in weeks I actually felt my shoulders drop from my ears when my phone lit up. Then again. 7 missed calls from Harold, my 72-year-old neighbor. I called back. Harold's voice was shaking so hard I could barely understand him. But 3 words came through crystal clear. "Your brother hit me." My blood went cold. Marcus saw my face and set down his fork. "What happened?" he asked. I was already grabbing my coat. Mike threw a party in my apartment. What I walked into when I got home, the police lights, Harold holding a bloody paper towel to his nose, Mike in handcuffs on my time's front steps, that was bad enough. But it was the phone call from Diane 30 minutes later that truly detonated everything. Because she wasn't calling to apologize. She was calling to deploy my father. Sweetheart Robert's voice came through the phone, tired and careful. "Your mother says Mike just needs 20 more days. Just 20. He's got nowhere. Dead." My voice cracked. "Don't." I gave him the 20 days. Because it was Robert asking. Because they knew I'd never say no to Robert. And in those 20 days, Mike stole something that made the Doritos and the light switches and even Harold's bloody nose look like nothing. Something worth $30,000 that was sitting on my dresser waiting for Marcus to find the right moment to give it back to me properly. I just didn't know it yet. The ring was a 3-stone diamond set in platinum. Marcus had bought it 6 months ago. He'd shown it to me, accidentally left the receipt in his glove box when I was looking for a parking ticket, and when I confronted him, he laughed and said, "Well, now you know it's coming. You just don't know when." We agreed I'd keep it in my dresser, in the velvet box, tucked inside a sock drawer, until he planned whatever moment he was planning. It was our little secret. Our future sitting quietly in a drawer waiting, until it wasn't. I noticed it was gone on a Wednesday. I'd been looking for a pair of compression socks before my shift, and my hand went to the back of the drawer where the box always sat and my fingers touched nothing but wood. I tore that drawer apart. Then the next one. Then every drawer in the bedroom. I checked under the bed, behind the dresser, inside pillowcases. I checked places that made no sense, the kitchen cabinets, the bathroom shelf, because my brain refused to accept the obvious answer. Mike was on the couch watching YouTube when I walked out. "Have you been in my bedroom?" He didn't look up. "Why would I go in your room?" My hands were shaking. Something's missing. Maybe you moved it and forgot. He scrolled his phone. Casual. Bored. I called Marcus. He came over that night. And Marcus, being Marcus, a man who builds legal cases for a living, didn't panic. He sat at my kitchen table, opened his laptop, and pulled up the building's CCTV portal. My landlord had given me access after the Herald incident as a precaution. What we saw in that footage dismantled every remaining lie. Tuesday, 2:47 p.m. Mike entering my bedroom with a backpack. Tuesday, 2:52 p.m. Mike leaving my bedroom with the backpack noticeably heavier. But that wasn't the worst part. Marcus kept scrolling. Monday. The previous Friday. Thursday before that. A pattern emerged. Mike entering and exiting my apartment with bags, with items, meeting people in the lobby I'd never seen. Men with hard faces and no patience exchanging small packages. Marcus paused the footage on a frame, showing Mike handing a small Ziploc bag to a man in a black hoodie in my building's stairwell. "That's a drug deal," Marcus said. Not a question. I couldn't speak. My throat had sealed shut. "He's been dealing out of your apartment." Marcus looked at me, and his face wasn't angry. It was terrified. "If the police raid this building, it's your name on the lease." Mike came home at 11 that night. He walked in, saw both of us sitting at the kitchen table with the laptop open, and his face did something I'll never forget. It flickered. Just for half a second. Like a mask slipping before he caught it. "What's this, an intervention?" He laughed. Marcus turned the laptop around. Mike's smile died. "Sit down," I said. He didn't sit. He stood there, eyes darting between the screen and the door, calculating. I watched him calculate. I'd watched him do it our entire lives, the quick mental math of which lie fits which angle works which person to manipulate. But for the first time, there was no angle. The footage was right there. "Where's my ring, Mike?" Silence. "Where is the ring?" I needed, he stopped. Swallowed. "I owe people money." "Drug dealers," Marcus said flatly. Mike's jaw tightened. "You don't know what you're..." "I'm looking at you on camera selling narcotics in her building. Sit down." He sat. What came out over the next 20 minutes was the full picture. Mike had been dealing since before he came to New York. The job interview was a connection, a supplier in Brooklyn. He'd been using my apartment as a base of operations. When he fell behind on payments, he started stealing from me to cover the debt. The ring. My backup laptop I thought I'd left at work. Cash from my emergency envelope in the closet I hadn't counted in weeks. I sat there and listened to my brother describe how he'd systematically robbed me, and I felt something I didn't expect. Not rage. Not sadness. Clarity. Cold, clean clarity, like stepping out of a fog I'd been walking through since I was 12 years old, defrosting chicken and apologizing for existing. I picked up my phone and called the number I'd seen most frequently on the CCTV footage, the man in the black hoodie. Mike had left his phone unlocked enough times for me to have seen the contact name D. Mike's face went white. "What are you doing?" "Solving this." D showed up with another man 20 minutes later. Marcus stood near the door, arms crossed, recording on his phone. I showed D the CCTV footage. I told him calmly that I had copies stored in 3 locations. That my boyfriend was an attorney, and that if anyone from his operation came near my apartment again, every frame would go to the NYPD's narcotics division. D looked at Mike. Then he punched him in the mouth. One clean shot that sent Mike stumbling into my kitchen counter. The other man spat on my floor. They left without a word. Mike was holding his jaw, blood on his lip, eyes wet. For one flickering moment, he looked like the little brother I'd once tried to love. "Get out," I said. "Tonight." Marcus drove him to a motel. Paid for one night. Told Mike that if he wasn't on a bus to Philly by morning, the footage would go to police with a full statement. Mike was gone by 7 a.m. I called Robert that afternoon. I told him everything. The drugs, the ring, Harold's nose, the dealing operation in my home. I told him what Diane's 20 days had actually cost me. And then I said something I've been holding in my chest for 16 years. "Dad, she broke me on purpose. She let him break me, and you watched." Robert was quiet for a long time. "Then I know. And I'm sorry." He promised rehab for Mike. He promised a conversation with Diane that she wouldn't be able to redirect or deflect. Whether he keeps those promises, I don't know. I love my father. But I no longer build my life on other people's promises. Marcus got the ring back. Don't ask me how. He's a lawyer. He made calls. He applied pressure in directions I didn't track. It showed up in a padded envelope 3 weeks later, undamaged. He proposed on a Sunday morning while I was making coffee in my clean, quiet, empty apartment. I said yes before he finished the sentence. The door stays locked now. For everyone.
Story 7.
My phone buzzed against the cracked laminate of my nightstand. I let it vibrate a second time before rolling over to look. It was my mother. Asterisk, asterisk, mom, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Hi, Leo. Your father and I would love to take you to dinner on Saturday. Just the three of us. We have a lot to talk about. A real heart-to-heart asterisk. I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the screen. A heart-to-heart. We hadn't had one of those in 20 years. Unless you counted the screaming match that ended with my duffel bag hitting the front lawn 2 years ago. For the last 6 months, they'd been trying. A text on my birthday. A stilted phone call on Thanksgiving where Dad mostly talked about the stock market. Apologies had been muttered vague and weightless things, like we could have handled things better. I never knew how to respond, so I'd just say, "It's fine." It was easier than saying, "You broke something and I don't know how to fix it." My apartment was a shoebox over a laundromat that always smelled like burnt fabric softener. I worked 40 hours a week, stocking shelves at a grocery store, and took online classes when I could afford them. I was tired. Deep in my bones, tired. And a small, stupid part of me, the part that still remembered being a kid who thought his dad was a hero, whispered that maybe this was it. Maybe this dinner was the real apology. The one that mattered. Asterisk, asterisk, me. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. What time asterisk? The reply was instant. Asterisk, asterisk, mom, asterisk, 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 7 p.m. The Oak Room at the Atherton Hotel. Your father is handling the reservation. Wear something nice, asterisk. Something nice. I owned one collared shirt that wasn't part of a work uniform. I guess that would have to do. Saturday came faster than I expected. I ironed the shirt, dug out a pair of dark jeans that were only slightly faded, and took the bus downtown. The Atherton Hotel wasn't just nice. It was the kind of place where the valets don't even look at you if your car is more than 3 years old. I walked past them and through the revolving glass doors, feeling like an imposter. The lobby was marble in hushed tones, but as I got closer to the Oak Room, a wall of sound hit me. It wasn't the quiet clinking of cutlery I'd expected. It was a roar. 100 voices shouting over each other, punctuated by bursts of deep, booming laughter. I pushed open one of the heavy oak doors and froze. It wasn't a table for 3. It was a ballroom. A sea of men in their late 40s, all wearing navy blue blazers and identical red ties, slapped each other on the back and bellowed names across the room. A massive banner hung over the bar, strung up between two potted ferns. In huge gold letters it read, Omega Delta Phi. 25 years of brotherhood. This wasn't a reconciliation dinner. It was a frat party for middle-aged men. My blood went cold. I felt the familiar sinking feeling of being an afterthought, a piece of furniture they'd forgotten about until they needed it. I started to back out, to just turn around and melt back into the night, but a hand clamped down on my shoulder. Leo? You made it. My father. His smile was wide and brilliant, but it didn't reach his eyes. His eyes were scanning the room, already looking for his next audience. He pulled me into a one-armed hug that was more of a hostage situation, his hand gripping my bicep like a vice. Dad, what is this? I asked, my voice barely a whisper over the din. He steered me away from the door into a small alcove near the coat check. His smile vanished the second we were out of the main line of sight. The friendly mask dropped, replaced by the hard, impatient man I knew. It's my reunion, he said, straightening his tie. I told your mother to invite you. It's important. You said it was a family dinner. To talk. He waved a dismissive hand. We can talk later. Tonight is about reconnecting. These men, Leo, these are my brothers. I've known them longer than I've known you. Their opinions matter. He leaned in his voice, dropping to a low, urgent command. You're my son. You're in your second year of business school at the university, and you're doing great. You understand. I stared at him. I wasn't in business school. I was a part-time community college student stocking produce. Dad, Don't he cut me off, his eyes like steel. Do not embarrass me tonight. You smile, you shake hands, and you play the part. We are a happy, successful family. Got it. I didn't answer. I just felt a deep, hollow ache spread through my chest. I wasn't a son he wanted to reconcile with. I was a prop. A shiny new accessory to show off to his friends, proof that Richard Marlowe had it all, including the perfect family. He didn't wait for a response. He clapped me on the shoulder again, the plastic smile snapping back into place as he turned to face the room. Good. Now come on, let me introduce you to some people. For the next hour, I was a ghost. He paraded me around the room, his hand a permanent fixture on the back of my neck, steering me from one conversation to another. Bill, you remember my son Leo? Dave, this is my boy, headed for Wall Street, this one. I'd shake a hand, nod, and force a smile that felt like cracking glass. They'd look at me, but they'd see him. They saw his legacy, his success, his perfect son. They didn't see the kid who learned to cook for himself at 12 because no one else was home. They didn't see the 18-year-old stuffing his life into a backpack on the front porch. They saw the lie and they loved it. My mother floated on the periphery, laughing with the other wives, occasionally glancing over at me with a look of strained, pleading encouragement. Asterisk. Just get through this, Times, her eyes seemed to say. Asterisk. Don't make a scene. Asterisk. Eventually, my father got pulled into a story about some legendary prank from '98, and his grip on my neck finally loosened. I slipped away, making a beeline for the bar to get a glass of water, anything to wash the taste of hypocrisy out of my mouth. As I stood there trying to catch my breath, a group of people my age drifted over. They were clean-cut, confident, draped in casual but expensive clothes. The children of the Omega Deltas. You're Richard Marlowe's kid, right? A guy with a perfect jawline asked. Leo, I said. Cool. I'm Josh. My dad's Tom, he said, gesturing to a loud man chugging a beer across the room. This is Amber and Kevin. We exchanged limp hellos. They started chatting about summer internships at their dad's firms, ski trips to Aspen, and the new cars their parents had bought them. I just stood there, a visitor from another planet. Amber, a blonde girl with kind eyes, seemed to notice my silence. She turned to me, offering a genuine smile, trying to pull me into the conversation. Our parents are all trying to one-up each other, she said with a light laugh. They went all out for our 18th birthdays. My dad got me a BMW. Josh's dad paid for a trip to Europe. She looked at me, her expression open and curious. What about you? What'd your parents get you for your 18th? The question hung in the air, a perfectly innocent landmine. I saw my father across the room laughing with his hand on some guy's shoulder, the picture of success. Asterisk, you're in business school. You're doing great. Don't embarrass me. Asterisk, his words echoed in my head. This was my chance to be the son he wanted just for a night. I could lie. I could make something up. A used car. A trust fund. Something plausible, something that would keep the gears of this grand illusion turning smoothly. I saw my mother watching our little group, a tight, nervous smile plastered on her face. Her eyes were begging me. Asterisk? Play along, Leo. Please. Asterisk. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. It wasn't loud or violent. It was a quiet, clean break. The part of me that had been holding out hope, the stupid, childish part that thought this dinner could fix things, just withered and died. I looked at Amber, her smile still open and waiting. I kept my voice perfectly level, almost conversational. I got kicked out. The three of them stared at me. The background roar of the party seemed to fade into a dull hum. Josh blinked. What, like as a joke? Your dad kicked you out of the house for your birthday. He tried to laugh, but it came out as a strangled cough. No, I said, my gaze unwavering. Not as a joke. On my 18th birthday, my present was my dad telling me to pack a bag and get off his property. The silence that followed was absolute. It was a dense, heavy thing that sucked all the air out of our little circle. Amber's smile vanished, replaced by a look of wide-eyed horror. Kevin suddenly found the scuff on his Italian leather shoes fascinating. Josh's jaw, which had seemed so perfect a minute ago, was just hanging open. Oh, Amber said, her voice a tiny whisper. I'm sorry. Don't be, I said, taking a sip of the water I'd been holding. It tasted like freedom. It saved me a lot of money on rent. I set the glass down on the bar, the clink loud in the sudden quiet between us. I gave them a small, tight nod and walked away, leaving them frozen in a tableau of rich kid awkwardness. I didn't go far. I found a spot near a potted fern and just watched. It didn't take long. I saw Amber lean over and whisper something to her mother. The mother's eyes widened and shot straight to my father. Then she turned and whispered to the woman next to her. It was like a virus. A quiet, vicious little contagion spreading through the room. A murmur here, a pointed glance there. The booming laughter around my father started to sound strained. One of his brothers clapped him on the shoulder, said something brief, and then walked away with a look that was anything but brotherly. Another man who had been listening intently to one of my father's stories suddenly remembered he needed another drink. My father felt the shift. I watched him scan the room, his smile faltering as he tried to figure out why the temperature had just dropped 20 degrees. His eyes darted around, searching for the source of the problem. And then they found me. Standing by the fern, I met his gaze from across the ballroom. He didn't have to ask. He knew. The mask of the proud father and successful alumnus melted away, and for a split second I saw the man who had thrown my bag onto the lawn. I saw pure, undiluted rage. It was a look that promised consequences. My mother caught his eye, then looked at me, her face pale with panic. She started to walk towards me, but I didn't give her the chance. I'd done what I came here to do, even if I hadn't known it an hour ago. I was done being a prop. I turned, walked past the coat check, and pushed through the heavy oak doors back into the quiet marbled lobby. The noise of the party was cut off behind me. I didn't look back. I walked straight out of the revolving doors, past the valets who still wouldn't look at me, and into the cool night air. The bus ride home felt longer than usual. The smell of burnt fabric softener from the laundromat had never been so welcoming. I was in the middle of making a sad instant ramen dinner when my phone started buzzing. It was a text from my father. Asterisk, asterisk, Dad, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. What did you do, asterisk? I ignored it. The water wasn't boiling yet. A minute later, it buzzed again. Asterisk, asterisk, Dad, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Answer me. Bill just asked me if I was having family problems. What the hell did you say, asterisk? I dumped the noodles into the pot. Another buzz. Asterisk, asterisk, Dad, asterisk, 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 you little bastard. You did this on purpose. 25 years of friendship, and you embarrassed me in front of every single one of them. Asterisk. I stirred the noodles with a fork. My phone buzzed again and again. It was a frantic, furious rhythm against the countertop. Asterisk, asterisk, Dad, asterisk, 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 this is what you do. After we try to bring you back in, after everything we did for you, this is the thanks we get, you're ungrateful. Asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk, Dad, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. I hope you're happy. You've ruined it. You've ruined everything. Don't ever contact us again. Asterisk. 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 Dad. Asterisk. 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 You're dead to me. Asterisk. The text stopped. The little apartment was silent except for the bubbling of the pot on the stove. I read the last message again. Asterisk. You're dead to me. Asterisk. He'd screamed the same thing at me 2 years ago. Nothing had changed. There was never going to be a real apology, never going to be a heart-to-heart. He wasn't sorry he'd kicked me out. He was just sorry people knew. I drained the noodles, dumped them in a bowl, and tore open the flavor packet. Sitting on my lumpy couch, I scrolled back through the messages. The fragile bridge we had spent the last 6 months building was a pile of ash. He'd burned it down without a second thought. All because his image had been tarnished. I ate the salty noodles in the quiet of my shoebox. For the first time in 2 years, I had told the truth. I had stood up for the kid on the porch with his life in a backpack. The victory felt clean and sharp. But as I sat there alone in the flickering light of a street lamp outside my window, a cold question settled in my gut. Was it worth it?
Story 8. I should have known from the start. That's what everyone says, right? Hindsight is a bastard like that. When I met Anna, it was like the world switched from black and white to color. I was the quiet programmer, the guy who preferred a book to a bar. She was all laughter and bright red lipstick. A whirlwind who pulled me out of my shell and spun me around until I was dizzy and desperately in love. We were married within 6 months. A year after that, life was good. Simple. Predictable. I liked predictable. Then Ryan moved in. It started with a frantic, tearful phone call. Anna's uncle, her mom's brother, had died of a sudden heart attack. His son Ryan, her cousin, was a wreck. He was 25, same age as Anna, and had been living at home. Now the house had to be sold. He has nowhere to go, Sam, Anna said, her voice thick with grief. He's all alone. Can he just stay with us? Just for a little while until he gets on his feet. What was I supposed to say? No. Of course, he could stay. I squeezed her hand and told her we'd make it work. I felt for the guy. The red flag started waving the first night he was there. I walked in from work and the smell hit me immediately. A rich, garlicky, buttery smell that made my throat start to itch. Shrimp scampi. I'm allergic to shellfish. Not an I'll get a little rash allergy, but an I can't breathe, call an ambulance kind of allergy. Anna knew this better than anyone. I found her in the kitchen laughing with Ryan as she stirred the pasta. She looked happier than I'd seen her in weeks. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice casual. "Smells potent." Anna glanced over her smile, faltering for a split second. "Oh my God. Sam. I completely forgot. I'm so sorry." She didn't look sorry. She looked annoyed. "Ryan loves seafood, it's his comfort food." I wasn't thinking. "It's fine," I lied. My throat felt tight. "I'll just order a pizza or something." "There's leftover chicken from 2 nights ago," she offered, already turning back to the stove. Ryan gave me a sympathetic little smirk. "Sorry, man. My bad." I ate 2-day-old chicken alone in my home office while they ate shrimp scampi at the dining table, their laughter echoing down the hall. That was the beginning. Anna, who used to text me throughout the day, went silent. When I'd get home, she and Ryan would be deep in conversation, which would stop the second I walked into the room. She started cooking seafood at least twice a week, always with the same breezy, "Oops, I forgot again." My kitchen, my own damn house, became a minefield of potential anaphylaxis. The distance wasn't just emotional. She stopped touching me. A kiss on the cheek before work became a quick mumbled bye. When I tried to pull her close in bed, she'd stiffen. "I'm tired, Sam," she'd sigh, rolling over to face the wall. My suspicion started to feel less like paranoia and more like self-preservation. I tried to talk to my best friend Mark about it. We were grabbing a beer after I'd had to air out the entire house because Anna decided to make lobster bisque. "I don't know, man," I said, swirling the condensation on my glass. "It's just weird. They're always together, whispering, laughing. And the way she looks at him. Dude, they're cousins," Mark said, taking a long pull from his beer. "Family. His dad just died. She's probably just being supportive." "You're being a little possessive, don't you think?" "Possessive? She's my wife." She put her legs on his lap the other night while they were watching a movie. I had walked into the living room to ask if they wanted a drink. The lights were low. Anna was curled on one end of the couch, Ryan on the other. Her bare feet were resting on his thighs, and he had one hand resting casually on her ankle. They didn't move when I came in. They just stared at me, their private little bubble broken. The air was so thick with something. I could barely breathe. It felt more intimate than anything I'd shared with my wife in months. Mark shrugged. "Okay, that's a little weird, I'll give you that. But incest? Come on, Sam. That's soap opera stuff. You're just not used to having another guy in the house. You're overthinking it. Give it time." He was probably right. I was an introvert, a born overthinker. I was just jealous and insecure. I tried to believe it. I really did. I tried to be the supportive husband. I'd ask Ryan how his job search was going. I'd make friendly conversation. But it was like I was a ghost in my own home. They were a unit, and I was the awkward, inconvenient third wheel. The breaking point was a Tuesday. I got a text from Anna around noon. Asterisk. Can't wait for tonight. He'll be gone soon. Asterisk. My heart hammered against my ribs. A cold dread washed over me. He'll be gone soon. She was talking about me. She had to be. Then a second text buzzed through. Asterisk. Oops, sorry, that was for my sister. We're planning a surprise for you, asterisk. A surprise. Right. My hands were shaking so bad I had to put my phone down on my desk. My brain was screaming at me. Asterisk lies. It's all lies. Asterisk. I couldn't focus. I stared at the lines of code on my screen, but they were just a meaningless jumble. Every dismissive comment, every plate of seafood, every shared glance between them replayed in my head. I wasn't overthinking. I wasn't paranoid. Something was terribly, horribly wrong in my house. I packed up my laptop. Feeling sick, I mumbled to my boss, "Gotta go home." I drove, but I didn't go straight home. I circled the block, parking down the street where I could see the front door. What was I even doing? What did I expect to find? I felt insane, like a stalker casing my own life. Mark's voice was in my head times. "You're being possessive, man." Asterisk. Maybe he was right. Maybe I'd walk in and find Anna planning a surprise party with her sister on a video call. I'd feel like the world's biggest asshole. But my gut, that primal animal instinct deep inside, was screaming that I was walking into an ambush. For nearly an hour, I just sat there watching my house. The curtains were drawn. The place looked dead. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know. I pulled the car around the corner and into our driveway. The house was silent as I walked up the path. I slid my key into the lock. It wouldn't turn. I tried again. Nothing. It was deadbolted. From the inside. We never used the deadbolt. Not when one of us was home. Never. My blood ran cold. He'll be gone soon. They thought I was gone. They thought they were alone. They were in there together behind a locked door. I stood there, key in the dead-bolted lock, and my entire world tilted on its axis. My breath hitched. He'll be gone soon. They thought I was gone. They were in there. A red rage, hot and blinding, washed over me. I wanted to kick the door down, to scream, to shatter the quiet little life they were carving up inside my house. But a colder, smarter part of me took over. Kicking the door in would make me the villain. I'd be the crazy, jealous husband. They'd twist it. Anna was a master at twisting things. I backed away from the door, my hands shaking. I walked. I didn't know where I was going, just that I couldn't be there. I ended up at the small park 2 blocks away, slumping onto a bench overlooking the duck pond. My mind was a hurricane of betrayal. I sat there for I don't know how long, just staring at the water, feeling my marriage dissolve into nothing. Then I saw them. They were walking along the path at the far side of the pond, hand in hand. Not a friendly, familial handhold. Their fingers were interlaced tight. They stopped under a willow tree, and the world seemed to slow down. Anna looked up at Ryan, her face full of an adoration I hadn't seen directed at me in over a year. He leaned down and kissed her. It wasn't a peck. It was a deep, passionate kiss, his hand sliding from hers to cup the back of her head, pulling her into him. I stood up. The world was strangely silent. As I walked towards them, my feet crunching on the gravel path. They didn't see me until I was 10 feet away. They sprang apart like guilty teenagers. Anna's eyes went wide with panic. "Sam." She gasped, her voice unnaturally high. "What are you doing here? I thought you were at work." "The door was deadbolted," I said. My own voice was flat dead. "I came home early." I looked from her flushed face to Ryan's smug one. What was that? What was what Anna said, forcing a laugh? I was just giving him a hug. A sibling hug. He's been so down lately. Ryan nodded, playing along. Yeah, man. Just family stuff. A sibling hug. The lie was so blatant, so insulting, it was like a slap in the face. They were standing there lying to my face about what I had just seen with my own 2 eyes. A sibling hug, I repeated, a bitter taste in my mouth. Right? You kiss all your family members like that, Anna. You're being crazy, she snapped, her panic turning to anger. You're paranoid, and you're seeing things that aren't there. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're suffocating me. I just looked at her. The woman I loved was gone. This person in front of me was a stranger, a venomous, calculating stranger. I turned and walked away without another word. I had my answer. Now I needed proof. The plan formed on the drive to a 2-4-hour electronics store. It was cold, methodical, and felt utterly insane. I bought 3 tiny cameras, the kind that look like USB chargers. I spent the night on Mark's couch, ignoring his questions. The next morning, I called Anna. My voice was steady. Listen, I said, I'm sorry about yesterday. You're right, I overreacted. I've been stressed. I could almost hear her relief through the phone. It's okay, honey. I get it. I have to go to London for a couple of days, I lied. Emergency project meeting. I'm heading to the airport from the office. I'll be back Thursday night. Oh, okay, well. Be safe. She said, the excitement barely contained in her voice. Perfect. I waited until I knew she'd left for work, then I let myself into my own house. The place felt tainted. I worked fast. 1 camera in the living room pointed at the couch, 1 in our bedroom tucked on the bookshelf. The last one I put in the kitchen facing the dining table. I connected them to a cloud storage account on a brand new untraceable email address. Then I went to a cheap motel near the airport and opened my laptop. I waited. For hours, I just watched an empty house. My house. Then around 6, they came home together laughing. They were carrying bags of groceries. I saw a lobster tail sticking out of one. I watched as they cooked together, drinking wine. I watched them eat at my table. I watched them move to the couch. I saw him kiss her and her hand slide down his chest. I saw enough. I shut the laptop, feeling sick to my stomach. I didn't need to see the rest. The next day, I checked the feed again. The camera in the bedroom was offline. Then the one in the living room blinked out. They'd found them. A cold knot of fear tightened in my gut, but it was quickly replaced by a grim satisfaction. I already had what I needed. The clips were saved. The truth was downloaded. I drove home Thursday night just like I said I would. I walked in and found Anna on the couch reading a book. She looked up, feigning a welcoming smile. Hey, how was London? There was no trip to London, I said, dropping my keys on the table. We need to talk. Her smile vanished. What's wrong? I know, Anna. She played dumb. You know what? I know about you and Ryan. I saw a flicker of panic in her eyes, but she held my gaze. I told you, Sam, you're imagining things. You're being possessive. Am I? I took out my phone, pulled up the first video, and placed it on the coffee table in front of her. It was the clip of them in the kitchen kissing passionately over the stove. She watched it, her face a mask of stone. The color drained from her cheeks. She didn't deny it. She didn't cry. She just looked up at me, her eyes cold as ice. "So, she said, her voice chillingly calm. "What are you going to do?" The lack of remorse was stunning. "What am I going to do? I'm ending this. Pack your things." She laughed. A dry, humorless sound. "You naive idiot. Did you really think I loved you?" Every word was a punch. "What are you talking about?" "Ryan and I have always been together," she said, a cruel smirk on her face. "Since we were teenagers. But our family, they wouldn't approve. It's easier this way. You were a good cover, Sam. The stable, boring husband no one would ever suspect." I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. My marriage wasn't just a failure. It was a fabrication. A lie I had lived and breathed for 2 years. Then she delivered the final disgusting blow. "It doesn't have to end," she said, leaning forward. "We can make this work. We can have an open thing. You get to stay married, I get to have him. It's perfect." The rage I'd been suppressing finally broke free. "Get out." I pointed to the door. "Get out of my house. Both of you. Now." She got out. But the war had just begun. The next day, my phone rang. It was my mother, her voice trembling with fury. "Sam, what in God's name did you do to that poor girl?" Her father just called us screaming. He said, "You're a violent, possessive monster, that you planted cameras all over the house to spy on her." The lies. They were already spreading, poisoning everything. I was being painted as the abuser. Anna was the victim. I hung up, my blood boiling. This was their game. To destroy me, to ruin my reputation, to make me the villain so they could be the martyrs. Pushed to the extreme, I did the only thing I could. I created a new email. I attached the video files, the kitchen, the living room couch. I sent it to 2 addresses: Anna's parents and Ryan's mother. The subject line was simple. Asterisk. The truth. Asterisk. The phone calls stopped. The threats stopped. All of it. There was just silence. A deep, profound, and damning silence. I filed for divorce the next day. The process was brutally fast. She didn't contest a thing. I got a restraining order against both of them. The house, which had been my prison, became my sanctuary again. I threw out every plate, every glass, every single thing she had ever touched. The divorce is final now. The quiet in my house is different. It's not lonely, it's peaceful. But sometimes in the dead of night, I still wake up with the phantom smell of seafood in the air, a ghost of the betrayal that I'm still learning how to live with. Story 9.
I've always been the guy who fixes things. Leaky faucet, bad investment, broken heart, didn't matter. I'd roll up my sleeves and make it right. So when my son Leo sat me down at the kitchen table looking like he was about to confess to a felony, I prepared to fix his life. He was 18, a good kid with a bright future. "Dad," he started, his voice cracking. "Kate's pregnant." I just nodded. No yelling, no panic. Panic doesn't solve problems. "Okay," I said, my voice even. "First we make a plan." I did. They were kids living with their respective parents working part-time jobs at the mall. They couldn't raise a baby in their childhood bedrooms. So I moved them in with me. It was a big house. Way too big since my wife passed, and the quiet was starting to get to me anyway. I gave them the entire second floor. Kate was a sweet girl, if a little shy. Scared mostly. Her own parents were less than thrilled, offering a lot of "I told you so" and not much else. I stepped in. I wanted them to know they weren't alone. This baby wasn't a mistake. It was a new chapter. My big project one was the nursery. The room next to theirs was just collecting dust, so I went to work. I didn't just slap some paint on the walls. I mean, I did that a nice soft gray, but I did everything else too. I spent a weekend assembling a top-of-the-line crib, a matching dresser with a changing table on top, and a glider rocking chair that cost more than my first car. I hung little animal prints on the walls and installed blackout curtains. When I was done, it looked like something out of a magazine. Kate cried when she saw it. Real happy tears. "Gabriel, you didn't have to do all this," she whispered, running her hand over the smooth wood of the crib. "Of course I did," I said, clapping Leo on the shoulder. "I'm going to be a grandpa. This is what we do." They were good kids. They saved their money, Leo got a promotion at the electronics store, and Kate found a remote data entry job she could do from home. 6 months in, they told me they'd found their own place, a small 2-bedroom apartment about 15 minutes away. I'll admit, a part of me was sad to see them go, but I was bursting with pride. This was the goal. I had given them the foundation, and now they were building their own life on it. I helped them move, of course, hauling boxes and setting up the nursery furniture I'd bought, making sure it looked perfect in their new home. Everything was going smoothly until the final month. The doctors found an issue with the baby's position breech, they called it. A C-section was scheduled for the 15th. Leo called me with the news. "Dad, they set the date. Tuesday, the 15th, 8 a.m. "Got it," I said already, pulling up the calendar on my phone. "I'll clear my schedule. I'll be there by 7. Do you need me to bring coffee?" There was a pause on the other end of the line. A weirdly long one. "Dad, hang on." I heard some muffled whispering, and then Kate's voice came on the phone. It was lighter than Leo's, but it had a strange tension to it. "Hi, Gabriel." "Hey, Kate." "Getting excited?" "Yeah, definitely." A little nervous, she said. "Listen about visitors at the hospital. Leo and I have been talking, and we've decided we don't want anyone there." I laughed. "Right. You don't want a whole parade of your high school friends coming through." "I get it. Don't worry. It'll just be me." "No," she said, and the word was suddenly sharp. "I mean no one. Except my sister Sarah. She's going to be my support person." The gears in my head screeched to a halt. "What are you talking about? I'm the grandfather." "I'm not a visitor." "I know, and we're so grateful for everything. But I'm going to be recovering from major surgery. I want those first couple of days to be just for us to bond as a family. And, well, to figure out breastfeeding, I need my privacy." Privacy. The word felt like a slap. After everything I'd done, the room, the furniture, the financial support, the goddamn emotional stability I'd provided when her own family wouldn't. She wanted times privacy, times from me. "Kate, that doesn't make any sense," I said, trying to keep my voice reasonable. "I'm not going to be watching you breastfeed. I just want to meet my grandson." "There's another thing too," she said, her voice getting even more formal. "The hospital is very strict about who can be around the baby. Have you had your Tdap booster recently?" "For whooping cough." I scoffed. "A shot. That's what this is about. I can go get a shot, Kate." "That's not a problem." It was just one more ridiculous hurdle she was throwing up. One more excuse. "It's not just the shot, Gabriel," she said, her frustration finally showing. "This is a C-section. It's a serious operation. I'm going to be in pain, and I'm not going to be up for entertaining." This is where I lost my patience. I'd seen this surgery in movies 100 times. I knew what it was. She was being dramatic. Entertaining. Who's asking you to entertain? It's a C-section, Kate, not open heart surgery. They make an incision, they take the baby out, they stitch you up. You'll be fine. It's not like you'll be bleeding all over the place or anything. The silence on the other end of the line was absolute. It was so cold I felt it through the phone. I knew I'd messed up, but I couldn't figure out how. I was just stating facts. I decided to offer a solution. A perfectly logical compromise. Look, I said, my voice softening. I get it. You want your space. Fine. How about this? You can stay in your room all private for as long as you want. Leo can just bring the baby out to the waiting room for me. I'll hold him for 10 minutes, meet my grandson, and then I'll leave. You won't even have to see me. I waited, proud of my brilliant, simple fix. It gave her exactly what she said she wanted while still letting me have the one thing I cared about. Another long, terrifying silence stretched out. When Kate finally spoke, her voice was completely different. It was low, tight, and vibrating with a fury I had never heard from her before. Let me be perfectly clear, Gabriel. Each word was a chip of ice. Nobody is taking my newborn baby away from me. Not for a second. Not you. Not anyone. The line went dead. Not a hang-up slam, just a cold final click. I stared at my phone, the silence roaring in my ears. Fury, hot and pure, burned through me. This wasn't about privacy. This was a power play. I immediately redialed. Leo picked up on the first ring, his voice tentative. Dad. Put her back on the phone, I commanded. She's not going to. I don't give a damn what she's going to do, Leo. I am your father. I gave you a roof over your head when you had nowhere else to go. I built a nursery for your son with my own 2 hands. I have earned the right to meet my grandson. The words tumbled out, each one coated in the acid of betrayal. It's not about earning anything, Dad. It's her body. It's her recovery. Her body, I laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. This is what this is. She's a narcissist, Leo. She's making this all about her. What about you? What about your father? Do we not matter? Are we just walking ATMs to you? I didn't just give you money. I gave you a foundation. I bought you stability. And now I'm being treated like some infectious disease. That's not fair, he shot back, his voice finally gaining some steel. She's not a narcissist. She's scared. She's about to have surgery, and she wants comfort and privacy, not a performance. A performance, 10 minutes. I asked for 10 minutes to hold the baby I practically paid for. I feel completely and utterly exploited. I poured my heart, my time, and my money into setting you two up for success, and this is the thanks I get. Banned from the hospital. You're just a poor boy caught in the middle, letting her run the whole show. Stop. The word was quiet, but absolute. Don't call me a poor boy, and don't talk about my wife like that. My wife. He'd never called her that before. The word cemented them into a unit, a fortress, with the drawbridge pulled up, leaving me outside. Unbelievable, I muttered, shaking my head at the kitchen wall. She's got you completely brainwashed. No, Leo said, his voice heavy with a finality that chilled me to the bone. She's got my back. And I've got hers. We'll call you when we're home and ready for visitors. He hung up. I stood there, phone in my hand, vibrating with a rage so profound it left me breathless. They were ungrateful. She was manipulative. He was weak. I was the victim here, the generous patriarch being cast aside by a selfish girl who had poisoned my son's mind. Fine. If they wouldn't listen to reason, maybe the rest of the world would. I stormed to my laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. I found a forum, one of those Am I the Asshole places. I laid it all out, the unexpected pregnancy, how I took them in the thousands I spent on the nursery, the apartment, the pride I felt. I painted myself as the supportive, heroic grandfather. Then I described Kate's sudden, inexplicable demand for privacy, her ridiculous excuse about a booster shot, and her refusal of my perfectly reasonable compromise. I framed her as ungrateful and controlling. I called my son a poor boy caught in the middle. I hit post and waited for the validation to roll in. It didn't. The first comment appeared within a minute. YTA. C-sections are major abdominal surgery. Your comment that she wouldn't be bleeding is one of the most ignorant things I've ever read. Another followed. YTA. A nurse here. Post-Gabriel C-section patients bleed heavily. It's called lochia. They have a catheter. They're on narcotics. And they're trying to learn how to feed a baby with a 6-inch incision in their abdomen. The last thing she needs is her overbearing father-in-law demanding a meet and greet. The post came in like a tidal wave, a deluge of acronyms and brutal honesty. YTA, YTA, major YTA. You didn't give them a gift. You bought a ticket. Your generosity came with strings attached. And now you're pissed they won't let you cash it in. She's not a narcissist for having boundaries. You're an entitled asshole for trying to stomp all over them. Poor boy caught in the middle. He's a father. He's a partner. His job is to support his recovering wife and newborn, not cater to his daddy's hurt feelings. He's not caught in the middle. He's exactly where he's supposed to be, on their side. Each comment was a punch to the gut. I read them for an hour, my righteous anger slowly deflating, replaced by a cold, creeping shame. They were right. All of them. My ignorance about the C-section was appalling. My compromise wasn't a compromise. It was a demand to separate a mother from her baby moments after birth. My generosity wasn't selfless. It was a transaction. Why had I been like this? Staring at the screen at the unanimous verdict from hundreds of strangers, the truth finally broke through the wall of anger I'd built around myself. It wasn't about entitlement, not really. It was about terror. 2 years ago, I was in a hospital waiting room just like the one I'd planned to be in for Leo. My wife Eleanor was in labor with our second child, a girl we were going to name Chloe. There were complications. Preeclampsia, they said. It happened fast. 1 minute I was expecting to meet my daughter, the next a grim-faced doctor was telling me they couldn't stop the bleeding. I lost them both. I never fixed it. I couldn't. I just stood there useless while my world ended. This time with Kate and Leo, I thought I could control it. I could provide, plan, and protect. I could be there on site ready to fix anything that went wrong. My desperate need to be at that hospital wasn't about meeting my grandson. It was an irrational, deep-seated terror that if I wasn't there, I would lose them too. My control wasn't about power. It was about panic. The shame was absolute. I hadn't been a supportive father. I had been a bully terrorizing 2 scared kids because I couldn't face my own ghosts. My hands trembled as I typed out an update to my post. Update. You're all right. I am the asshole. No question. I read every single comment, and you've shown me something I was refusing to see. I was wrong, entitled, and my behavior was inexcusable. There's no excuse, but there is a reason. 2 years ago, my wife and infant daughter died from complications during childbirth. I was in the waiting room when it happened. I think I've been driven by a terrible fear that I can't explain, and I took it out on my son and his girlfriend. I tried to control their birth experience because I had no control over my wife's death. It's not their burden to carry, it's mine. I'm going to call my son and apologize. I'm going to a clinic tomorrow to get my Tdap booster. And then I'm going to wait until they are ready. Until they invite me. Thank you for the wake-up call. I closed the laptop. The house was silent again, but it felt different now. The quiet wasn't empty. It was heavy with the weight of my mistakes. I had one more thing to fix. But this time it was myself.
Story teen.
Please, Lisa. It would mean the world to me. My brother John had his puppy dog eyes on full blast. The ones he'd used to get out of trouble since he was 6. We were sitting in my small apartment, the scent of fresh paint still hanging in the air from my weekend project, and he was dropping a bomb on my wedding plans. John, I already have 5 bridesmaids, I said, trying to keep my voice even. My childhood best friends. My cousin, my fiance's sister. The numbers are perfect. So what's one more? For me, Sarah feels left out. Sarah. Of course. His girlfriend of 2 years. The human equivalent of a designer handbag, expensive, a little stiff, and mainly for show. I couldn't stand her. And the feeling I knew was mutual. The last time I saw her, she'd spotted my reusable grocery bags from Walmart in the backseat of my car and smirked. "Oh, Lisa," she'd said, her voice dripping with pity. "You're so practical." It wasn't a compliment. But this was my brother. My only sibling. I could see the desperation in his eyes, the frantic hope that the 2 most important women in his life could just pretend to get along for my sake. I sighed, a long, drawn-out sound of defeat. Fine. She can be a bridesmaid. But John, she has to actually times be times a bridesmaid. She has to show up, wear the dress, and not make everything about her. His face lit up. She will, I promise. Thank you, Lisa. You won't regret this. Spoiler alert, I would. My maid of honor, Chloe, was a saint. She added Sarah to the bridesmaids group chat without a single complaint, though I knew she felt the same way I did. The chat, Lisa's last fling, immediately blew up with excited messages. We were heading to Miami for a long weekend, and the girls were already planning. Chloe, being the organizational wizard she is, laid out the plan for the final night. Chloe, okay ladies, final night dinner details. We're going to a super chic place on the water, so let's get glam. I'm thinking a group photo theme. Everyone wear pink. Any shade, any style, just make it pink so we look like a cohesive, fabulous squad for Lisa. The chat erupted. Jenna OMG love. I have the perfect hot pink dress. Maria? Found a rose gold sequin number? Does that count? Chloe, yes, rose gold is perfect. I watched the screen waiting. Then Sarah's little text bubble appeared. Sarah, cute idea, Chloe. Very bubblegum. I rolled my eyes so hard I think I saw my own brain. Classic Sarah. A backhanded compliment wrapped in a dismissive little bow. But then she followed it up. Sarah, Jenna, that dress sounds amazing. Is it the one from Revolve That? Jenna. Yes. How did you know? Sarah, I have it in black. You'll look stunning. There it was. Undeniable proof. She saw the memo. She engaged with the memo. She knew the damn dress code was pink. I screenshotted the exchange, a knot of unease tightening in my stomach. I didn't know why I did it, just a gut feeling that I'd need it later. The first 2 days in Miami were fine. Tense, but fine. Sarah mostly kept to herself, scrolling on her phone by the pool while the rest of us laughed and shared stories. She made little digs here and there, commenting on how my swimsuit was a brave choice and asking if the cheap rosé we were drinking was giving anyone else a headache. We all just ignored her, determined to not let her ruin the vibe. Then came the final night. The big dinner. We were all in our hotel suite, a tornado of hairspray, makeup palettes, and of course pink dresses. Jenna was in her hot pink mini, Maria was sparkling in rose gold, and Chloe looked incredible in a silky fuchsia slip. I'd chosen a soft blush pink gown that made me feel, for the first time in a while, like a bride. We were all giddy, taking selfies and blasting music when a text came through on the group chat. It was from Sarah. Sarah, hey girls, so sorry. A last-minute work emergency just came up. I have to hop on a call. I'll meet you at the restaurant, but I'm going to be late. Start without me. A collective groan went through the room. Work emergency? On a Saturday night, Maria muttered, zipping up her dress. Just be glad we get an extra hour without her, Jenna said, and we all laughed. I felt a sliver of relief. Maybe she'd just skip the dinner entirely. We could have one perfect, drama-free night. We arrived at the restaurant and it was stunning. Open air right on the water with white tablecloths and twinkling fairy lights everywhere. The hostess led our very pink-clad group to a prime table. We ordered a round of spicy margaritas and the mood was electric. For an hour, I forgot all about Sarah. We were loud, we were laughing, and I was surrounded by the women I loved most. To Lisa, Chloe toasted, holding her glass high. The most beautiful, kind, and patient bride-to-be in the world. We all clinked our glasses, and in that moment I felt pure happiness. That's when I saw her. She wasn't walking, she was striding, making an entrance. Every head in the restaurant turned to watch her. My brother's girlfriend, my bridesmaid by obligation, Sarah. She wasn't wearing pink. She was in a floor-length, backless white sequin gown. It clung to her body like a second skin shimmering under the restaurant lights. As if that wasn't enough, the bottom of the dress exploded into a cloud of white tulle, a miniature train that swept the floor behind her. And perched on top of her perfectly coiffed hair was a delicate, glittering tiara. She looked more like a bride than I did. More than I ever would. My friends' laughter died in their throats. Jenna's jaw was literally hanging open. We all just stared stunned into silence as she glided toward our table, a smug little smile playing on her lips. A waitress who had just been approaching to take our order stopped and beamed at our table, her eyes landing first on me in my pale pink, then on the radiant vision in white. Oh, how lovely, the waitress chirped, completely oblivious. Are we celebrating a joint bachelorette party tonight? The waitress's cheerful voice felt like a slap. My blood ran cold, then hot. Every ounce of joy from the evening evaporated, replaced by a white-hot humming rage. A joint bachelorette party. She had turned my night, my celebration, into a spectacle starring herself. Chloe recovered first. She gave the waitress a tight, dismissive smile. No. Just the one, she said, gesturing pointedly at me. For Lisa. The actual bride. The waitress's face fell, her eyes darting between me and my blush pink and Sarah in her bridal armor. Oh, I'm so sorry, It's fine, I bit out my voice dangerously low. Sarah finally reached the table, feigning a breathless innocence. Sorry, I'm late. The call ran forever. What did I miss? She slid into the empty chair, her tulle skirt crunching against the seat. The tiara on her head caught the light and sent a tiny mocking sparkle directly into my eye. No one answered her. The silence was thick and heavy. Maria stared at Sarah's dress like it was a poisonous snake. Jenna was just slowly shaking her head, a look of pure disgust on her face. What Sarah asked, her voice laced with manufactured confusion. Is something wrong? That was it. I snapped. What's wrong, Sarah? I asked, my voice shaking with fury. What's wrong is that you look like you're about to walk down the aisle at your own wedding. At times, my time's bachelorette party. She placed a hand on her chest, her expression a perfect mask of wounded surprise. Oh my God, Lisa, this old thing. It's just a cocktail dress. I can't believe you'd think I was trying to upstage you. I would never. A white sequin gown with a tulle train and a tiara as a cocktail dress? Jenna scoffed from across the table. In what universe? I just wanted to look nice for your big night, Sarah insisted, her voice getting louder, playing to the nearby tables. I feel so attacked right now. The photographer Chloe had hired for an hour arrived right then, a cheerful guy with a huge camera. Ready for some group shots, ladies? Absolutely, I said, standing up. My chair scraped loudly against the floor. I looked directly at Sarah. We are. You're not in them. Her jaw dropped. For the first time, a flicker of genuine shock crossed her face. What? Why not? Because the theme was pink, I said, my voice ice. We're taking pink-themed photos. I didn't get the memo, she cried, the lie slipping out so easily. My work call was so crazy I must have missed the text. The knot of unease in my stomach that had prompted me to screenshot her message tightened into a vindicated fist. I pulled out my phone, unlocked it, and pulled up the image. I didn't say a word. I just turned the screen towards her. There it was in black and white. Her own words. Cute idea, Chloe. Very bubblegum. And her follow-up discussing Jenna's pink dress from Revolve. Her face went pale. The smugness, the faux innocence. It all dissolved, leaving behind a pinched, ugly look of being caught. She stared at the phone, then at me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. Get out of the way, Sarah, Chloe said, her voice leaving no room for argument. She, Jenna, and Maria stood up flanking me. We were a wall of furious pink. We walked over to a spot by the water, the photographer looking bewildered, but following our lead. Sarah was left alone at the table, a shimmering white monument to her own narcissism. We took the pictures. We smiled, we posed, we linked arms. In every shot, we were a vibrant, cohesive group, and I was the undeniable center. There was no confusing who the bride was. From the corner of my eye, I could see Sarah watching us, her arms crossed, her face a thundercloud. It was the most satisfying and miserable photo shoot of my life. The flight home was silent. Sarah sat 3 rows behind us and didn't say a word. The moment my plane landed, my phone buzzed. It was John. I ignored it, knowing what was coming. It buzzed again. And again. By the time I was in the taxi home, I had 5 missed calls and a string of furious texts. What the hell did you do to Sarah? She's in tears. Said you and your friends bullied her all night. Answer your phone, Lisa. I waited until I was inside my apartment, the door locked securely behind me. I took a deep breath and called him. He picked up on the first ring. What is wrong with you? He yelled, his voice raw. She flew all the way to Miami for you, and you treat her like that. You deliberately excluded her and humiliated her in front of everyone. She humiliated me, John, I shot back, my own voice rising. She showed up to my bachelorette dinner in a wedding dress and a tiara. It was a white dress. So what? You don't own the color white. Sarah said you were all just jealous because she looked better than you. The accusation knocked the wind out of me. Are you listening to yourself? She lied, John. She said she never got the memo about wearing pink, but she literally discussed it in the group chat. I have the receipts. Receipts? He scoffed. This isn't a courtroom, Lisa. It's our family. You've turned into a complete bridezilla. This whole wedding has made you crazy and cruel. The word bridezilla hung in the air between us. It was the ultimate insult. The one designed to dismiss a woman's valid anger as hormonal hysteria. All the frustration, the hurt, the years of swallowing Sarah's little digs for his sake, it all came pouring out. Fine, I said, my voice dangerously calm. If I'm a bridezilla, then I'll be one. Sarah is no longer a bridesmaid. She's uninvited from the wedding. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Then a low, menacing reply. If she's not welcome, then neither am I. He hung up. I stood in my living room, phone in my hand shaking. My brother, my only sibling, was choosing her. He was choosing the woman who deliberately tried to ruin my celebration over his own sister. The next day, a text landed in the family group chat from John. My mom, my dad, me. For your information, Sarah and I won't be at Father's Day brunch this weekend. We don't feel comfortable being around people who think it's okay to bully and exclude family. My mother called me instantly frantic. I explained everything, my voice cracking as I recounted the white dress, the tiara, the lie. I sent her the screenshot. She was horrified, but also devastated. Your brother is just blinded by her honey. Please, can't you just be the bigger person and apologize to smooth things over? Apologize. For what? For not letting her walk all over me. Now I'm sitting here staring at the Father's Day card I bought for my dad, wondering if he'll be celebrating it without his son. The wedding is in 2 months. John and I haven't spoken. I heard from a cousin that things between him and Sarah are strained, that he can't understand why she won't just let it go. Part of me feels a grim satisfaction. The other part, a much larger part, is hollowed out with grief. I stood up for myself, but in doing so, I might have just detonated my entire family. And a tiny, insidious voice in the back of my head keeps asking times, was it worth it? Did you go too far? Asterisk.
Story 11.
10 years. For 10 years, I've been the ghost at the dinner table. The footnote in the family photo album. The thing my stepmother Ellen has to explain away at parties. Oh, that's just Carl. David's son from his first marriage. Her 4 kids, Mark, Jenna, Kyle, and Sophie, never let me forget it. They formed a wall the day she and my dad got married, and I've been on the outside ever since. They weren't just indifferent. They were hostile. It was a sport for them. My stuff would go missing. They'd lock me out of the house. They'd have inside jokes at the dinner table that always ended with the 4 of them laughing and me staring at my plate. Dad, he was a ghost too. Always working, always traveling. He saw the family he wanted to see, a happy blended unit orchestrated by his perfect wife, Ellen. He didn't see the whispers or the glares. He just saw the smiling photos she staged. The worst part wasn't the pranks. It was the clarity. Last summer, we were all forced on one of Ellen's family bonding camping trips. I was trying to start a fire, and the 4 of them were watching me from a picnic table. You know, Jenna said loud enough for me to hear, if a bear came into camp right now, it would totally go for him first. Kyle snorted. He's the weakest link. Then, Mark the oldest, the golden boy, delivered the final verdict. Honestly, I'd probably just watch. Let nature take its course. They all laughed. I looked over at them, the flickering lighter in my hand. I wasn't hurt. I wasn't even surprised. It was just confirming. They wouldn't just let me get mauled by a bear. They'd pull up a chair and crack open a beer. They'd made it clear 1,000 times. I was nothing to them. So when Ellen gathered us all in the living room 2 months ago, a manic beaming smile on her face, I already knew whatever was coming wasn't for me. We have the most wonderful news, she announced, clapping her hands together. Mark was sitting beside his new fiancée, a woman named Jessica, who looked perpetually terrified. Mark and Jessica have set a date. And she paused for dramatic effect, turning her high-wattage smile directly on me. Mark has asked Carl to be one of his groomsmen. The room went silent. I looked at Mark. His jaw was tight, a muscle twitching in his cheek. He wouldn't meet my eyes. This wasn't his idea. This was an Ellen production, starring her with the rest of us as unwilling props. No, I said. Just that. One word. Ellen's smile didn't falter, but it became a blade. Don't be silly, Carl. Of course you will. No, I won't, I repeated, standing up. Congratulations on the wedding. I nodded at Jessica, who looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. Then I turned and walked back to my room, the silence of the living room pressing in on my back. The next few weeks were a masterclass in psychological warfare. Ellen started soft. She'd catch me in the kitchen, putting a gentle hand on my arm. Honey, I know you and Mark have had your little squabbles over the years, she'd say, her voice dripping with condescending sweetness. But this is different. This is about family. It's about being there for your brother on the most important day of his life. Mark is not my brother, I'd say, pulling my arm away. He doesn't even like me. That's not true. He loves you. You're all my children. It was like talking to a wall. A very well-dressed, delusional wall. When the soft approach didn't work, she escalated. She started leaving things on my bed. A magazine about wedding etiquette opened to the page about a groomsman's duties. A swatch of silky, god-awful burgundy fabric. A little note written in her perfect cursive times. This will look so handsome on you, asterisk. I swept it all into the trash can. Then came the texts. Group chats I was added to without my consent. Asterisk. Groomsmen meeting re-bachelor party planning times, I'd immediately leave the group. A minute later, I'd get a private text from Ellen. Asterisk, Carl, please don't be difficult. Asterisk. One night she ambushed me with my dad, catching us both as I was heading upstairs. David, talk to your son, she said, her voice strained. He's refusing to be in Mark's wedding. He's being so unreasonable. My dad, caught in the headlights as usual, just rubbed the back of his neck. Come on, Carl. Just do it for your mother. It's one day. How hard can it be? It's not for her, I said, looking straight at Ellen. And it's not one day, it's a lie. I'm not standing up there and pretending we're some big happy family for your friends. We times are times a family, Ellen insisted, her voice rising. Are we? I shot back. Ask Mark if he thinks we are. Ask him what he'd do if a bear showed up. Dad just looked confused. Ellen's face went pale for a second before the mask of maternal concern snapped back into place. I don't know what you're talking about. You're being dramatic. I just shook my head and went to my room. The final straw came yesterday. It was a simple text from a number I didn't recognize. Asterisk. This is a reminder for the groomsmen of the Miller-Hanson wedding. Your suit fitting is scheduled for tomorrow, Saturday, at 2:00 p.m. at Tuxedo Junction. Please be prompt. Asterisk. I stared at the phone. The sheer audacity. She'd gone ahead and scheduled it, assuming she could just bulldoze me into submission. I felt a cold, hard knot of defiance solidify in my gut. I typed back a simple reply, not to the group, but to Ellen. Asterisk, I will not be there. Asterisk. Her response was almost instantaneous. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then reappeared. A minute later, my phone buzzed. Asterisk, what do you mean you won't be there? I've already paid the deposit, Carl. You have to go. Asterisk. I didn't reply. My phone buzzed again. A phone call. Asterisk, Ellen. Asterisk, I hit decline. It rang again immediately. I declined it again and put my phone on silent. For the next hour, it was quiet. I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd finally gotten the message. That I wasn't a prop she could move around her stage. I was actually starting to relax, lying on my bed with my headphones on, when I heard the sound of her SUV crunching up the gravel driveway way too fast. I pulled my headphones off. A car door slammed shut with enough force to rattle my window. Heavy, furious footsteps stomped up the front porch steps. The front door opened and slammed shut, shaking the whole house. I sat up, my heart starting to pound. Asterisk. Thump. 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 Asterisk. The sound of her footsteps hard and fast coming up the stairs. Coming for me. They stopped right outside my door. The house was dead silent. I held my breath, listening. Slowly, deliberately, the brass doorknob began to turn. The door flew open and slammed against the wall, making a new dent in the drywall. Ellen stood in the doorway, her chest heaving, her perfectly made-up face a mask of crimson rage. The gentle, manipulative matriarch was gone. This was the real her. What is the meaning of this? She hissed, her voice low and venomous. She took a step into my room, her eyes scanning the space as if looking for evidence of my betrayal. I paid a deposit, Carl. I made an appointment. You will be there tomorrow. No, I said, my own voice calm and quiet. I stayed seated on my bed. I knew that my stillness would infuriate her more than any shouting match. This is not a negotiation, she snapped, pointing a trembling finger at me. This is not about you and your teenage moods. This is about family. This is about showing a united front. There is no united front, I said, looking her straight in the eye. There's you, your 4 kids, my dad, and me. That's not a front. It's a battlefield, and I'm the only one who ever gets shot. Her jaw tightened. I have spent 10 years, times 10 years, times trying to make you feel like a part of this family. I have bent over backwards for you. I almost laughed. It was such a breathtaking lie. Bent over backwards? You mean ignoring the fact that your kids treat me like something they scraped off their shoe? They do not. They love you. You are just determined to be miserable, to make things difficult. Her voice was rising, cracking with a frantic energy. She started pacing the small space between my bed and my desk. This wedding has to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect. Do you have any idea the kind of pressure I'm under? And there it was. The crack in the facade. The pressure you're under? I asked, my voice dangerously soft. I thought this was about Mark. Of course it's about Mark, she shrieked, whirling around to face me. But people are watching. My friends, David's business partners. They're all going to be there. They all know our story. They know about our beautiful blended family. She said the words, blended family, like it was the title of a novel she'd written. What are they going to think? She pleaded, her voice suddenly dropping into a desperate whine. Her whole body sagged. What is it going to look like if David's own son isn't even standing up there with his brother? It'll look like something is wrong. It will look bad, Carl. It will look so, so bad. She stared at me, her eyes wide and wet, and I saw it all. It wasn't about family. It wasn't about unity or brotherhood or love. It was about set dressing. It was about the optics. I was a prop. And my refusal to play my part was ruining her production. I was a loose thread threatening to unravel the perfect tapestry she'd spent a decade weaving. Something inside me, a tightly wound coil of 10 years of silence and swallowing my own rage, finally snapped. I stood up from the bed. I don't care, I said. The words were flat, devoid of heat. Just a simple statement of fact. I don't care how it looks. Her face crumpled in disbelief. What did you say? I don't care, I repeated, stepping towards her. About your friends. About my dad's partners. About your perfect picture. I am not going to stand up in a church and lie for you. It's not a lie, she cried, her hands balling into fists. He is your brother. That was it. That was the line. The final hypocritical, insane statement that pushed me over the edge. A cold, clear anger washed over me, sharpening every word before it left my mouth. My brother? I asked. My voice was no longer quiet. It was a blade. You mean the brother who stood 10 feet away from me last summer and told Jenna and Kyle he'd watch me get mauled to death by a bear? Ellen froze. Her mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. The color drained from her face, leaving 2 bright red blotches on her cheeks. I took another step closer, forcing her to look at me. He didn't just say it, Ellen. He described it. Honestly, he said, I'd probably just watch. Let nature take its course. And then your other 3 perfect children laughed. They thought it was hilarious. That's the brother you want me to celebrate. That's the family you need me to put on a burgundy tuxedo for. I let the question hang in the dead silent air of the room. I watched her manufactured reality shatter and fall to the floor in 1,000 pieces. I had taken her script, ripped it to shreds, and set it on fire. She had nothing. No defense. No denial. She knew it was true. Maybe she'd even overheard it herself and just filed it away under things to ignore. For a long moment, she just stared her mind, scrambling for a new tactic, a new angle of attack. Finally, she found one. She drew herself up a flicker of indignation, returning to her eyes. "There is no reason," she said, her voice a brittle whisper, "to use such vulgar language." It was pathetic. A defeated queen trying to critique the grammar of the man who just stormed her castle. She couldn't argue the substance, so she attacked the style. I didn't even bother to respond. I just held her gaze. The power had shifted completely. For the first time in 10 years, she wasn't looking at a nuisance to be managed. She was looking at someone who wouldn't break. The stalemate lasted a few more seconds before her eyes dropped to the floor. Defeated. "Get out of my room," I said. She flinched, then turned without another word and walked out, leaving the door wide open. I listened to her footsteps, slower this time, retreat down the stairs. A few minutes later, I heard her SUV start up and crunch back down the driveway. I walked over and shut my door, the click of the latch echoing in the sudden, profound silence. It wasn't a victory that felt like a celebration. There was no joy, no rush of adrenaline. Just a heavy, hollow space where a decade of anxiety used to be. The fight was over for now. The burgundy swatch was still in the trash. The suit fitting would happen without me. I had drawn a line. Not in the sand, but in solid rock. And for the first time, I felt the solid ground of my own well-being beneath my feet.
Story 12.
My mother, an artist to her core, saw life as a canvas. Her final project wasn't paint and clay. It was us. Her children. She'd named my siblings and me with a deliberate, almost obsessive poetry, Liam, Olivia, Violet. L-O-V. She died before she could complete her masterpiece, before she could find her E. "You finish it for me, baby," she'd whispered, her hand a skeletal weight on my swollen belly. Her eyes clouded with morphine still held that creative fire. "Find the E. It has to be one of mine. A grandchild. My blood. A promise made in a sterile beeping room is a promise etched in stone. So when I found out I was having a girl, it felt like destiny. A sign from Mom. The legacy would be safe. I was 6 months along when my sister Liv called. Her voice was tight, a wire pulled taut. "Are you sitting down?" she asked. "Liv, I'm perpetually sitting down. What's wrong?" I rubbed a hand over my stomach, a subconscious gesture of protection. "Dad and Bethany are having a baby." The air left my lungs in a silent rush. Dad. And Bethany. My mother's nurse. The woman he'd been sleeping with while Mom's masterpiece of a life was fading to gray in the next room. They'd gotten married 6 months after the funeral, a move so grotesque it felt like a slap. "Oh" was all I could manage. My throat closed up. When? "She's about 4 months along. Just announced it on Facebook." Liv's sigh was pure static. "That's not the worst part, Clara." I waited. The silence stretched, filled with the hum of my refrigerator and the frantic thumping of my own heart. "They're planning on naming it with an E name," Liv finally spit out. "To complete Mom's legacy and honor her memory." The phone felt slick in my hand. I gripped it tighter. "They what?" "You heard me. Bethany posted this whole saccharine novel about how she always admired Mom's artistry and wants to give Dad the gift of completing her LOVE vision." A hot, acidic wave of rage surged up my throat. Bethany, who used to bring my mother lukewarm tea and steal my father's glances over the sickbed. Bethany, who wore a pair of my mother's earrings to the wedding. Asterisk. That times Bethany was going to honor my mother. It's a performance, Clara, the whole thing. She's trying to erase Mom. He can't, I said, my voice shaking. He can't let her do that. Mom told me. She told me times. I times had to do it. One of us. Her blood. Try telling him that. I did. He said it's beautiful that all 4 LOVE children will be siblings all in the same generation. He said it's what Mom would have wanted. Mom would have set his car on fire, I snapped. Liv let out a bitter laugh. You know it, I know it. But Dad's living in some fantasy land where his affair was a tragic romance and Bethany is his reward for being a grieving widower. My apartment, usually a sunny, hopeful space filled with baby gear and half-finished nursery projects, suddenly felt like a cage. The little stuffed elephant on the rocking chair seemed to be mocking me. This wasn't just about a name anymore. It was a heist. They were stealing my mother's final wish, twisting it into a monument for their own tawdry affair. She's not family. Clara Liv's voice was low and fierce. She's the woman who sat in our kitchen drinking our coffee, while Mom was upstairs forgetting our names. Don't you let her take this. I won't. The words were a vow. Later that day, a text message lit up my phone. It was from Bethany. My thumbs hovered over the screen, trembling with a mixture of anger and dread. Asterisk, Clara Honey. Just heard the most wonderful news from your dad that you're having a girl too. Isn't it a sign? 2 new little angels to heal our family. I know how much you wanted to use an E name for your mom, but I hope you understand why it's so important for your father that this baby, his child, completes the set. It would mean the world to him. We can find another beautiful name for your little one together. Maybe one that honors me. Let's be a family again. Asterisk. The winky face emoji was a digital shiv to the ribs. Asterisk. Honors me times. The audacity was breathtaking. She wasn't just stealing the name. She was asking me to hand it over with a smile and thank her for the privilege. This wasn't about honoring Mom. This was about replacing her. Staking a claim, Bethany wasn't just marrying my father. She was trying to colonize our family history, planting her flag right on top of my mother's grave. I screenshotted the text and sent it to Liv without comment. Her reply was instantaneous. Asterisk. That manipulative witch. Asterisk. Followed by asterisk. What are you going to do, asterisk? I stared at my reflection in the dark phone screen. My face was pale, my eyes hard. The promise I made to my mother echoed in my head, no longer a whisper, but a battle cry. This wasn't a request. It was her last will and testament. I pushed myself off the couch, my movements stiff with resolve. I grabbed my purse, my keys. The casual tone, the winking emoji, the disingenuous plea for unity, it all clicked into place. This was a declaration of war. And she had underestimated her enemy. I had to see him. I had to look my father in the eye and make him understand what he was about to destroy. The engine was off, but my hands were still clenched around the steering wheel, knuckles white. I was parked across the street from my mother's house. My house. Now it was just his house. Bethany's house. Through the big picture window, the one Mom always filled with stained glass birds she'd made, I could see the flat, sterile glow of a television. I didn't call first. I just walked up the stone path, my key sliding into the lock with a familiar grating sound. They didn't even change the locks. The sheer arrogance of it. They were on the couch, my dad's arm slung around Bethany's shoulders. She was wearing one of his old flannel shirts, a detail so domestically cloying it made my teeth ache. They both looked up, startled. Clara, my dad said, getting to his feet. What are you doing here? You should have called. This is still my house, isn't it? I asked, my voice flat. I looked at Bethany, whose hand had gone instinctively to her own small, neat bump. I got your text. The one with the winky face. Bethany flushed a blotchy, unattractive red. I was just trying to reach out. To smooth things over. There's nothing to smooth, I said, turning my full attention to my father. You know what Mom asked me to do? You were in the room. He ran a hand through his thinning hair, a gesture of exasperation I'd known my whole life. Clara, don't be dramatic. We talked about this. It's a beautiful tribute. All 4 of them, siblings. It's poetic. It's a lie. I shot back the words like stones in my mouth. Mom's poetry was about times bloodline, her children and her children's children. Not her replacements. The word replacement hung in the air. Dad flinched. Bethany, however, saw her opening. She stood up her face, a carefully constructed mask of gentle concern. Clara, I know this is hard for you, she began, her voice dripping with faux empathy. I loved your mother too. I admired her so much. All I want is to honor her and make your father happy. I know she would want him to be happy. She took a step towards me. Please don't take this from him. Let him have this one thing. It would help him heal. That was it. The breaking point. The disingenuous plea. Using my mother's memory as a shield for her own conquest. A hot white rage, pure and clean, sliced through my grief. You don't get to say her name, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. And you don't get to decide what she would have wanted. You're the nurse who slept with a patient's husband. That's all you'll ever be in this story. My father's face went dark. That's enough, Clara. Apologize to Bethany. No. I looked from his face to hers, this woman who was colonizing my life. And I felt nothing but the cold certainty of a general before a battle. I'm not giving you the name. It's mine. It was promised to me. I turned and walked out, not waiting for a response. The lock clicking shut behind me sounded like a starting pistol. 2 weeks later, Liv called breathless. You are not going to believe this. Try me. I was folding a tiny onesie in my back, protesting with every movement. Aunt Carol. You know how she talks to everyone. She was on the phone with Dad's sister, and apparently Bethany had her big 20-week scan. Liv paused for dramatic effect. It's a girl. I stopped folding. What? Yup. They were so sure it was a boy. Dad had been telling everyone they were going with Elliot. They're scrambling now. They don't have a girl's E name picked out. A slow, audacious smile spread across my face. My own due date was a ticking clock just over 2 weeks away. But they were back at square one. It was a gift. An opening. My mother, from wherever she was, had just handed me a tactical advantage. They just lost their head start, I murmured. What was that, Liv asked. Nothing. Hey, Liv, I think I'm having a contraction. My daughter was born 36 hours later, a furious, beautiful little thing with a full head of dark hair just like my mom's. She arrived in a whirlwind 2 weeks early as if she knew she was on a deadline. When the nurse came in with the paperwork, I didn't hesitate. I wrote her name in firm, clear letters, my hand steady for the first time in months. Elise. L-O-V-A. I texted a picture to a group chat with my dad and Liv. Just the photo, no caption. My tiny girl swaddled in a hospital blanket. Complete. Liv's reply was a string of heart emojis. My father's came 10 minutes later. It was a private message. Asterisk. How could you? You did this on purpose. You stole this from your mother, from all of us. You took her beautiful legacy and made it about your own petty childish anger. Asterisk. The words were meant to hurt, to curdle my joy. But looking at Elise sleeping on my chest, I felt a profound sense of peace. I hadn't stolen anything. I had reclaimed what was ours. I'd kept my promise. The real fallout began the next day. Aunts and uncles from my dad's side started texting, calling me selfish, disrespectful, a witch who couldn't stand to see her father happy. I ignored them all. Then, Bethany went public. She posted a black and white, artfully filtered photo of her ultrasound print. The caption was a masterpiece of passive-aggressive warfare. Asterisk. Sometimes the most beautiful art takes a little longer to finish. We've been blessed with a little girl, and we've decided to take our time to find the perfect name to complete a very special family legacy. Patience is a virtue. The real E-Baby is on her way to bring our family the healing it deserves. Number 4 is love. Number family legacy. Number honoring her memory. Asterisk. The comment section was a cesspool. Sympathy poured in for the poor grieving widower and his angelic new wife whose beautiful tribute had been sabotaged by a bitter, jealous daughter. People who had known me my entire life were liking the post, leaving comments about how disappointed my mother would be in me. My phone buzzed relentlessly. Liv was sending me screenshots, her own furious comments lost in the sycophantic flood. It was a coordinated attack, a public shaming. They were rewriting the narrative, painting me as the villain who had desecrated her own mother's memory. I sat in the dim light of the nursery, the blue glow of my phone illuminating Elisa's sleeping face. The stress was a physical weight pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. The victory felt hollow, the peace shattered. Was it worth it? Was this vicious public war worth a name on a birth certificate? My daughter stirred her tiny hand wrapping around my finger. Her grip was surprisingly strong. I looked down at her at this perfect final piece of my mother's masterpiece. This wasn't just a name. This was a promise. This was Mom's last stand. And she'd chosen me as her soldier. Bethany's post was still open on my screen. Asterisk. The real E-Baby is on her way. Asterisk. A cold, hard resolve settled in my bones, replacing the anxiety. They wanted a war, fine. They had forgotten one crucial detail. My mother wasn't just an artist. She was a fighter. And I was without a doubt her daughter.